Chapter 31 Date Invitation. Tony was rescued, and Stark Industries stock skyrocketed, hitting the daily limit for 2 consecutive times, with an increase of 20%. Tony is flying back to the United States. Tony landed. Tony held a press conference. Tony announces the closure of the Stark Industries weapons division. Stark Industries stock fell off a cliff again, falling below the limit for 3 consecutive days. In just a few days, it was a thrilling adventure for American stock investors. Countless stock investors almost went bankrupt in the blink of an eye, and there were more than a dozen unlucky guys who jumped off the building on Wall Street today. In the carnival of this group of lunatics, only one person made a lot of money, and that was Xia Yi. At this moment, he was on the phone with his stockbroker. "Boss, you are so amazing. To be honest, several of my colleagues went bankrupt today. Fortunately, I was only focused on selling your stocks and had no time to buy them." "How did you know that Tony Stark was going to close the weapons department?" On the phone, his stockbroker asked in disbelief. "Metaphysics, the mysterious power from the East. It can predict the future through some clues. This is nothing. There are many people in Tianqiao, the capital of China, who have this magical ability. People call them fortune tellers, but most of them not as powerful as me." Xia Yitian boasted shamelessly. "Like those witches who use crystal balls?" the agent asked in surprise. "Strawberry. No, those are all lies. Chinese metaphysics has been passed down for thousands of years. It is a complete knowledge, including feng shui, numerology, qi men dun jia and other categories. Many universities even offer metaphysics majors. It has a profound foundation. Except that it cannot be explained with current technology, it is already a science." Xia Yi once again boasted about his motherland. "Wow, China is indeed a magical country. I must go and see it," the agent sighed. "You will fall in love there." Xia Yi agreed with a smile before getting down to business. "By the way, in a few days, once Stark Industries stock falls below 50%, I will buy all my funds." "Did you predict something again?" the agent asked in surprise. "Ah." Xia Yi was embarrassed. This kid actually believed it. "There is no other way, just continue to lie." "Yes, but I can't say. You know, predicting the future is an ability that only gods have. There is an old saying in China that, the secrets of heaven cannot be leaked. If I say it, I will cause bad luck and even risk my life." Xia Yi said deceitfully. "Oh my God, sorry sir, I won't ask again," the agent exclaimed. "Okay, remember my words, wait until Stark Industries stock price drops to 35% before buying it, and be sure to spend all the money before it drops to %." Xia Yi ordered Road. XS. "Yes, as you wish sir," the agent replied. He didn't raise any objection this time, as if he was really frightened by Xia Yi's words. After the stockbroker hung up the phone and calmed down, he realized that his customer was joking with him. As a staunch atheist, he doesn't even believe in God. How can he believe in fate? He just didn't believe in fate, so he walked out of a remote town in Texas and climbed up step by step from a restaurant waiter to his current position. "I don't believe in such illusory things." He leaned back in his chair, scoffing at his surprise. But by some mistake, he opened Google Chrome and entered the 2 keywords China and metaphysics. Xia Yi didn't know that his boast had shaken an atheist, and he was facing the most important thing in his life. "When I went to work in Hell's Kitchen the night before, I happened to meet my colleague Daredevil. After working together to complete a task, Xia Yi chatted with Daredevil for a while. He asked Daredevil a question that had troubled him for a long time: how to chase girls. I have to say that it made him anxious to bring Miss Polaris home for so long without making any progress. Seeing as Daredevil has a girlfriend and an ambiguous assistant, there should be something he can do. Looking at Daredevil, he suddenly had such an idea, so he took advantage of the situation and asked. Daredevil told him that he must be bold when pursuing a girl. He would ask her out at any time, and inviting her to have a meal or watch a movie would be a matter of course. Daredevil also specifically used himself as an example, saying that he met Erica in a coffee shop, and then went up to fight with Erica. Hearing this, Xia Yi suddenly felt that Daredevil seemed unreliable. But no matter how unreliable it is still a solution, and it is better than just waiting. So tonight, he specially prepared a table of delicious food in advance while Lorna was out, and planned to take the initiative to invite Lorna to watch a movie. In GGA, aren't girls the ones who take the initiative to date the male protagonist? Reality is indeed a scumbag game. So at this moment, looking at Lorna across the table who was calmly eating her dinner, Xiaoyi seemed to have a brazier sitting under her butt, twisting and turning uneasily. Damn it, Matt, he just said he wanted to take the initiative to ask out a girl, but he didn't say how to ask for it. Should he be gentler or more domineering? If the other party agrees, should you act excited or calm? How to relieve the embarrassment of being rejected? Xiaoyi's mind was filled with chaotic thoughts, and she couldn't calm down. What's wrong with you? Lorna noticed Xiaoyi's strange behavior and asked doubtfully. No, it's nothing. It's just. Xiaoyi opened her mouth, the words were in her throat, but she just couldn't come out. What is it? Lorna was even more confused. Just die. Let's go see a movie tomorrow afternoon. Xiaoyi gritted her teeth and lowered her head after saying this, not daring to look at Lorna's reaction. What if Miss Polaris stops living here in anger? Even if you don't leave, what will you do if you ignore me in the future? Xiaoyi regretted it as soon as she said it, and even looked at the price of the time machine in the system store. Well, it's simply too expensive to afford. Sure enough, there is no regret medicine in the world. The few seconds of waiting for Lorna's answer made the summer night feel as long as a century. Okay. Just when Xiaoyi was almost desperate, Lorna's voice was like a bright light that pulled him out of the darkness. At this moment, he felt that the whole world was bright. Really? Xiaoyi raised her head in surprise, eyes shining, staring at Lorna. Lorna blushed a little because of Xiaoyi's fiery eyes, but she still nodded, really. The huge surprise shot through his brain like a bullet, and his brain went blank for an instant. Chapter 32 Angry Summer Night. Xiaoyi was excited all day long, fantasizing about all the details of the date like a pregnant girl. She was not satisfied with every piece of clothing in her closet, which was spread all over the room. Strawberry even put aside the day's training and ran to the shopping street to buy a lot of new clothes. I'm actually going on a date with Miss Polaris. Throughout the day, this sentence would pop up in his mind from time to time, and then he would stop moving as if he was suddenly possessed by an evil spirit, and start grinning silly. The frequency is about once every 10 minutes, and each session lasts from half a minute to 3 minutes. Fortunately, he was so excited that he didn't get carried away and booked movie tickets before the date. The show started in 2 hours. Xiaoyi took a good bath, put on the jeans and white shirt she had chosen, and then started sitting on the sofa in the living room to watch TV, waiting for Lorna to come back and set off together. After waiting for more than an hour, I could hardly catch up with the 9 o'clock movie. No one was waiting, but I got a call from Lorna. Hey, Lorna, where have you been? You can't make it in time to watch a movie. Xiaoyi answered the phone and asked. However, before he finished speaking, he heard continuous explosions and screams from the crowd on the phone. What's going on? Where are you? Xiaoyi was worried. Get out of the way, I'm fine, don't worry about me. Lorna seemed to call someone before replying. A little accident happened here. Sorry, our date has to be rescheduled to tomorrow. 35XS. At the same time, there was another explosion on the phone, and this time the explosion was very close to Lorna. Damn, where are you? Xiaoyi was anxious. I can solve it. Tell me right away. Xiaoyi yelled through gritted teeth. Lorna hesitated for a moment before replying, Okay, I'm near Osborne Tower, that's where you and Spider-Man took care of the big lizard. Find a safe place and wait for me. Xiaoyi immediately hung up the phone and rushed out of the house as fast as he could. Xiaoyi now hates herself extremely for not learning the Wukong technique and having to rely on running. Fortunately, with his current physical fitness, he can sprint at a speed of more than 70 km per hour, which is much faster than a vehicle driving in the city center where speed limits are everywhere. Adhering to the principle of the shortest straight line between 2 points, the route he chose was the rooftop. The tall buildings in New York City are like walking on flat ground to him, and he can jump over them even if they are 20 or 30 meters apart. Compared to the handsome and impressive parkour, his movements are more simple and crude. Relying on the inertia brought by high speed and strong leg strength, he jumped from the roof of one building to another without any rolling unloading force, and he directly resisted the impact of landing. At this moment, his ears could hear nothing but the whistling wind. Countless people saw Strawberry leaping on the roof of the building, but he didn't care and just sprinted forward on his own. As we were getting closer and closer to the Osborne building, we could see out of the corner of our eyes that the street below had become a long queue. In the distance, Xiaoyi could already hear the explosion on the phone. Even if it takes more than 20 minutes to drive, he arrived in just 10 minutes. Xiaoyi ignored her exhausted physical strength and accelerated again. After several ups and downs, she finally reached the place where the explosion came from. When he finally landed, he almost lost his balance. His whole body looked like he had been fished out of the water, and he was covered in sweat. His lungs were wheezing like bellows, and he struggled to hold on as he looked down from the top of the building. The street below the building has been blocked off, and the usually high-traffic crowds are nowhere to be seen. This neighborhood seems to have experienced a war, with traces of explosions everywhere. Asphalt roads were everywhere, vehicles turned into burning torches, and many gaps were blown out of the buildings on both sides. Thick smoke filled the sky over the city. Boom. Xiaoyi was scanning around to find Lorna's location when she heard an explosion coming from the Osborne Industrial Parking Lot building on the left. Looking up, the fire from the explosion had not completely dissipated, and the thick smoke had already dispersed. Xiaoyi suddenly noticed a figure suspended in the sky not far from the explosion. He was riding a flying skateboard that looked like bat wings, and he was dressed in green clothes. The most conspicuous thing was the green hat on his head. He was holding two pumpkin-like things in his hand, and he threw them below him with a wild laugh. The pumpkin exploded as soon as it hit the ground, and even the reinforced concrete wall was destroyed. If there was anyone behind that wall, they must have been blown to pieces by now. Isn't this the Green Goblin? Why is the Green Goblin here? Then he saw what seemed to be a figure flickering in the thick smoke raised by the explosion. Could it be Lorna? Was the explosion in the ES call the Green Goblin's pumpkin bomb? Lorna. Xiaoye's heart was instantly filled with anger. He roared and charged at the Green Goblin. The distance of 200 to 300 meters came almost instantly, and in the blink of an eye he had already rushed to the Green Goblin's feet. The Green Goblin also noticed Xiaoyi, but did not see Xiaoye's speed exceeding that of ordinary people. He thought he was a bold ordinary person and threw a pumpkin bomb. However, Xiaoyi reacted very quickly and kicked the bomb back with a flying kick. The Green Goblin hurriedly dodged. Although he avoided the scope of the explosion, he was blown several times in the air by the impact of the explosion. Surprised, the Green Goblin lowered his head to look for traces of Xiaoyi, and saw Xiaoyi rising from the ground like a cannonball, jumping several meters high, and punched him in the head. Who is this? Superman from the comics. The Green Goblin was extremely surprised, but fortunately, the opponent had no way to borrow power in the air. He used the hoverboard to dodge the attack at a critical moment. However, Xiaoye's target was not him at the beginning. After the attack was avoided, his landing point was exactly where the Green Goblin had just attacked. He just saw that the figure in the thick fog seemed to be still moving. Maybe Lorna was still alive. What he has to do now is to rescue Lorna first, and then settle the accounts with the Green Goblin. As soon as he landed, he immediately sprinted with all his strength, stretched out his hand to stop the figure's waist, took Lorna away, and brought her to a safe place to settle her. But what I didn't expect was that Lorna resisted. Not only did he resist, he even kicked him. This kick was so powerful that Xiaoyi was kicked out and hit the wall nearby, making her dizzy after hitting the ground. When did Lorna become so powerful? Just as he was wondering, 2 lines of spider silk were shot from the direction of Lorna, and stuck to the walls on both sides of him. Then Lorna used the spider silk as a slingshot to launch herself over. Xiaoyi quickly jumped up to dodge, and Lorna smashed the cement wall into cracks. Red. At this time, Xiaoyi finally vaguely saw the figure of Lorna. Spider silk, covered in red. This girl is not Lorna, but that stinky Spider-Man silk. Chapter 33 Shockwave Girl. Parker, stop fighting, it's me. Seeing that the little spider wanted to continue attacking, Xiaoyi shouted quickly. What? Master. Why are you here? Little Spider paused in his attack when he heard this. At this moment, the smoke gradually faded, allowing him to see Xiaoye's appearance clearly, and he couldn't help but ask in surprise. "I'm here to see Lorna. She's a girl with green hair, about the same age as me. Have you seen her?" Xiaoyi asked anxiously. "Ah, I've seen it. The one who fought with that guy at the beginning was a girl with green hair." Little Spider, who was still the Green Goblin, replied. "She's a mutant, very powerful. The bombs thrown by that guy are controlled and thrown into the sky or in uninhabited places. She seems to be able to control magnetic fields and then control metals, but there is always a green light when she uses her abilities. Magnetic field, but there is no color. Why is it green?" The little spider not only started to talk, but also started to desert. But someone reminded him. At first, the Green Goblin saw that the two were about to fight, and was happy to watch the show, but unexpectedly, he stopped fighting after the move, and decisively threw a pumpkin bomb at the two. Although the pumpkin bomb is powerful, it is too slow whether it is used against Xiaoyi, who is a fighting race, or against the little spider who has a spider sense. Almost as soon as the bomb was released, Xiaoyi and little spider moved to both sides and quickly distanced themselves from the bomb's impact point. The bomb exploded, destroying the loneliness. "Ahahaha, this is not a place for chatting. Parker, no matter who comes, you will pay for everything you have done. Trust me, you will soon. Little Spider, do you know where the green-haired girl went?" The Green Goblin was making his villain declaration, and Xiaoyi interrupted him impatiently by shouting. "Isn't it just that my father is dead? Your dad committed suicide, and he still blames that little spider. Besides, it's not certain whether your father is dead or not. Anyway, he didn't die in the comics, but he was resurrected later. Oh, she is with another girl, hiding in the underground parking lot of the building on the right." Little Spider pointed to the building to him and shouted in response. After asking and answering questions, the Green Goblin, who was trying to show off, was completely ignored by the two of them. Angry and embarrassed, he let out an ouch and aimed his floating wing at the little spider. Two muzzles appeared and fired wildly at the little spider, causing the little spider to dodge in embarrassment. Xiaoyi had no time to pay attention to these two good friends who were in love with each other and turned around and left without hesitation. Now is the time for little spider and his gay friends to solve the problem. If the winner is not decided after he confirms Lorna's safety, Xiaoyi doesn't mind asking the Green Goblin to settle his account for attacking Lorna. When we arrived at the underground parking lot, unexpectedly there were many people here. They were so panic-stricken that they huddled together, making noisy noises uneasily, just like a vegetable market. Strawberry just thought about it and it became clear. After all, it was impossible to evacuate everyone in such a short period of time in an emergency, so for the people stranded nearby, the underground was always safer than the outside. These people all gathered together, and Xiaoyi immediately found Lorna. Her green hair was too conspicuous. At this time, Lorna was having a lively chat with another girl. The girl seemed to have said something that made Lorna very angry. Lorna kept asking questions, and the girl also argued with reason. Xiaoyi walked over with a dark face. As they got closer and closer, their voices gradually became clearer. "How could you do this? It's illegal to steal other people's company secrets." Lorna asked. "No, I have to publish what they did. That's what tidal wave is for. As I said, people should have the right to know. We have the right to know what crazy things the government and those capitalists are doing," another girl said impassionedly. Listening to the voice, Xiaoyi felt inexplicably familiar. "Damn, I'm not interested in those. The key issue is that you lied to me. I even gave up a date because of you. You don't know how important this date is, night." Lorna was indignant, and suddenly seeing the approaching summer night, I was a little surprised. If Xiaoyi looked carefully, she would find that her ears were red. Obviously she didn't want Xiaoyi to hear the last words just now. The girl was stunned for a moment when she saw this. She turned her head to look where Lorna was looking and saw Xiaoyi as well. Xiaoyi also saw the girl's face clearly at this time and couldn't help being surprised. This is an Oriental beauty with black hair and yellow skin. Her facial features are far more delicate than those of Caucasians, and there is almost no flaw to be found. But Xiaoyi was not shocked because of her beauty, but because he was extremely familiar with this girl. "Are you Wang Qing? Shockwave girl?" he blurted out with a big mouth. "That's right, the Oriental beauty standing in front of him is Sky, the 10,000-year candidate for the Avengers. Could it be that God saw that the harem plan he made after coming to this world was difficult to implement and came to help him? Who is Wang Qiying? What shockwave girl? Sky frowned, seeming to be very interested in the two names Xiaoyi said. Ahem, that's not important, Lorna, why are you here? Xiaoyi quickly changed the subject. The last time he said Lorna's name was already weird, but if he said Sky's name again, he was either a prophet or a pervert. Luckily he was shouting the name of the person who plays Sky and her future nickname. But Lorna is also very concerned about Xiaoyi's performance just now, Wang Qiying. Shockwave girl. Who are they? Ahem, these two names belong to the same person. It was a neighbor aunt when I was still in China when I was a child. Xiaoyi could only make up lies. Lorna looked Xiaoyi up and down, obviously doubting Xiaoyi's words. Don't talk about this. Why are you here? Why are you fighting with the Green Goblin? Xiaoyi asked again. Lorna stared at Xiaoyi for another long time, staring at Xiaoyi until his hair stood up before letting him go, and then pulled Sky over. It's her. She lied to me, telling me that there is a certain high-level person in Osborne Industries and hell several big gangsters in the kitchen cooperated and had a lot of information about them, so I took her to sneak into the Osborne building. Unexpectedly, she was to investigate Osborne's biochemical research, and was discovered by the Green Goblin. The fight started. By the way, she belongs to the hacker group in Spur and has excellent computer skills. The information I have given you in the past few days was all provided by her. Is the wave established so early? And Sky joined the wave so early? Xiaoyi expressed surprise at this. Surprised, Xiaoyi didn't even finish the food in the bowl, and was not in the mood to look at the food in the pot. He just glanced at Sky in surprise, then turned his attention to Lorna again. You're not hurt, are you? No. As long as you avoid that guy's machine gun fire, neither missiles nor bombs can hurt me. Don't forget, I can manipulate metal. Lorna said with a smile. At this moment, Sky suddenly interrupted, surprising both of them. Are you Yi Xiaoxia? Chapter 34 Pervert vs. Green Goblin, Part. Are you Yi Xiaoxia? Sky's sudden words shocked Xiaoyi. Strawberry. He glanced at Lorna in surprise. Did you tell her? No, I just asked her to help me collect information from beginning to end. Lorna was also surprised. Lorna didn't say anything. I guessed it myself. No matter which gangster I provided Lorna with information on in the past few days, that gangster would be attacked by the Nightshade immediately. I wasn't very sure at first, because it might be a coincidence, but after meeting you, I am sure that you are the Nightshaker. Sky replied wisely. Have you seen me? Xiaoyi became even more confused. Don't you remember me? Sky smiled. Sometimes lies may be well-intentioned, but the truth will not bring good results. Are you familiar with this sentence? Ah. Xiaoyi was shocked again. You are the girl who was trafficked by the gang. Well. Although the attack on the gangster may be a coincidence, I will not mistake your size and voice. Thank you for saving me. How can I repay you? A narrow smile appeared on Sky's face. The little girl has nothing to repay, she can only pledge herself to her. Fuck. Xiaoyi was stunned again. Sky's last words and Xiaoyi's, F***ck, were both said in Chinese. Lorna didn't understand them, but judging from the expressions of Sky and Xiaoyi, she found that things were not that simple. 35XS. What are you talking about? She asked eagerly. Nothing, nothing. Xiaoyi waved her hands repeatedly. He finally figured out that this girl was just joking. I didn't expect you to be such a shock-wave girl. Sky snickered beside her. Lorna was even more suspicious when she saw their performance. She didn't know why, but she felt a sense of crisis, a feeling that the cheese was about to be stolen by a mouse. She must keep Sky away from Xiaoyi in the future, and it's best not to meet him. Ahem, since you guys are fine, let's leave here right away. Lorna, I still have the movie tickets. If we go there now, we should be able to get there before the movie starts. Xiaoyi said hurriedly. But just wait here for a moment, and I'll beat that cuckold to vent your anger. Don't go. Isn't there Spider-Man? Lorna quickly grabbed Xia Ye's arm and stopped her. Are you worried about me? Xia Yi suddenly enlightened, patted the back of Lorna's hand, and smiled gently. It's okay, don't forget, I am also a superhero, I will protect you. Seeing such a summer night for the first time, Lorna was startled. When he came back to his senses, Xia Yi had already gone far. Looking at Xia Ye's unimpressive back, the corners of her mouth raised slightly. The feeling of being protected by 35XS seems good. Let's go out and take a look. Sky suddenly said to her excitedly. No. Lorna's face suddenly darkened. Why not? With Spider-Man and Nightshaker, it should be safe, right? Besides, isn't there you? You can control metal, and the Green Goblin can't hurt you, Sky advised. Don't think about it, I won't let you go out. Lorna said with a dark face. I haven't settled the matter with you yet for lying to me. Guaguai and I are waiting here for Xia Ye's return. Oh, it turns out his real name is Xia Yi. Sky was happy. It's an Oriental name. I also want to choose an Oriental name. What do you think of Wang Qiying? This name sounds good. Lorna felt that it was a mistake to let Xia Yi see Sky. When Xia Yi walked to the ground, he discovered a very serious problem: he didn't bring his suit. Maybe it wasn't a problem when he first arrived. After all, this area had been cleared and no one would be able to see his appearance clearly. But now, the bravest New York reporters in the world are riding in a helicopter to film Spider-Man vs. the Green Goblin. My dear, the Green Goblin can fly. Are you really not afraid of being beaten to death? If you just go up and beat up the Green Goblin, you will definitely be photographed. Now I'm not strong enough yet, and it's not time to be exposed, but I don't have a mask on, what should I do? Look around to see if there are any clothing stores around. You can get by dressing up and tying clothes to your head as a mask. However, after searching around, I only found a lingerie store that could barely be considered a clothing store. Do you need underwear and pullover? It's too perverted, don't do it. How about sparing the Green Goblin this time? But all the big words have been spoken. Xia Yi stood in front of this women's underwear store, trying to think of a way. Then the Green Goblin who was fighting Spider-Man passed by his head and took a look. Wow, isn't this the guy who just chatted with Spider-Man? If you are still attacking me, you must be an enemy. The smart Green Goblin knew that the pumpkin bomb could not explode Xia Yi, so he decisively launched 2 micro-missiles with the floating wings. Xia Yi heard the movement behind him, turned his head, and saw something flying towards him. The speed of the missile was not as fast as the bullet. He subconsciously reached out and caught the flying objects one by one. Take a closer look, missiles. Your uncle's. Throwing the missile away with a flick of his hand, he jumped into the lingerie store. The missile exploded with a bang, and Xia Yi felt a pain in her back. The shock wave of the explosion pushed her whole body away, until she hit the dressing room at the end of the store and landed on her face. My nose was sore and painful from the bump, and when I touched my hand, it was bloody, and tears flowed out. Looking at his body again, although he was far away from the center of the explosion and his back was only slightly injured, his clothes were not as resistant as his body. The back part of his shirt was completely torn. The pants, which are more important than the shirt, the jeans, and the underwear inside were blown to pieces, and now his butt is exposed. How can I go to watch a movie with Lorna later? Damn Green Goblin. I haven't even fought you yet, so I'm looking for a mask, and you're going to do this to me. It is unbearable. My uncle can't bear it, and my aunt can't bear it either. I couldn't wear my pants anymore, so I simply pulled them all off and wrapped them around the key parts of my lower body several times to block them. It looked similar to a Japanese loincloth. The shirt was also pulled off and wrapped around his face, covering it tightly, leaving only 2 eyes. Looking at the half-broken mirror in the dressing room. Wow. Naked pervert. It's okay, I don't dare to recognize it myself, no one should recognize it. But it's too shameful to show too much flesh, what should I do? He took aim at the women's underwear in this store again, maybe. No matter, it's like this anyway, the broken jar is broken. A minute later, a pervert with his face covered tightly, wearing a denim crotch and a white chest-high suspender appeared on the stage. Being tortured like this, Xia Yi was filled with anger and had no way to vent her anger. He gritted his teeth and rushed towards the Green Goblin who was fighting Spider-Man. Chapter 35 Pervert vs. Green Goblin, Part. The following is a live report from a New York TV reporter. We've just arrived at the scene and Spider-Man is fighting terrorists. Oh my god, terrorists are throwing bombs at Spider-Man. Spider-Man ducks. Bravo. We can see that the terrorists have a lot of high-tech equipment, flying skateboards and Halloween bombs. The US government actually allowed a terrorist to appear in the center of New York City with so many weapons. We need to think about what is behind this. Oh my god, his skateboard is equipped with a machine gun. He's shooting at Spider-Man. Spider-Man is hiding behind that wall, and God forbid the bullet will go through that wall. Well, Spider-Man is safe. He launched a counterattack. Oh, it's a shame his attack was dodged. The terrorist, how about I name him the Green Goblin? Green Devil. Just like superheroes in comics must have one or more nemesis, the Green Goblin must be Spider-Man's nemesis. Maybe he has a plan to destroy the world. Maybe I'll find a way to interview this guy after this battle. Wait, Spider-Man is flying. No, he's stuck to Green Goblin's skateboard with webbing. Haha, the arrogant skateboard boy is going to suffer. Spider-Man is using his webbing to climb onto Green Goblin's skateboard. Oh my god, the Green Goblin dropped a bomb on Spider-Man. Spider-Man lets go of the webbing, and it looks like the attack failed. Huh? Is there someone there? Are there any innocent people who have not been evacuated? The man jumped up, so high. He's trying to attack the Green Goblin. He covered his face. This is no ordinary person. Quick, zoom in, let's take a look at this new superhero. This superhero should be coded. We can see that this new superhero should be young, and his skin color should be yellow. He is dressed very weirdly, and looks like a performance artist. He's using the walls of the building to jump around and attack the Green Goblin. He and Spider-Man work well together, which is surprising. Wow. He threw Spider-Man at the Green Goblin, who got kicked. The Green Goblin is going to fall off his skateboard. What a shame, the Green Goblin crawled back. Damn it, they should have taken this opportunity to attack. Maybe we should give this new superhero a name. How about Jangwo? Translated into Eastern languages, it is a pun. I like this name, and if he were Chinese, he would also like this name. Great, Kino and Spider-Man attack again. The Green Goblin dodged Spider-Man's attack, but not Jockey Man's. The strongman didn't make a move, but stood firmly on the skateboard. He's beating up the Green Goblin. Oh my god, I see blood, this must hurt. The following returns to Xiaoye's perspective. A strongman is wearing a chest-high suspender denim crotch cloth on a summer night. 35XS has always thought that tights are perverted, but he never thought that one day he would wear clothes that are 100 times more perverted than tights to fight. What's more important is that even he couldn't recognize himself, but the little spider actually recognized him. Angry, he used the Green Goblin as a punching bag, and found the right opportunity to jump onto the Green Goblin's floating wings, and slash the Green Goblin's head. The Green Goblin was about to resist, but was knocked unconscious by Xiaoye's punch. I saw that the Green Goblin's helmet was deformed after a few hits, and there was blood seeping out of it. The Green Goblin finally reacted, controlled the floating wings to flip in the air, and pushed Xiaoye out hard. Seeing that Xiaoye was about to fall to the ground, Spider-Man used the spider silk to swing over and catch him. Master, why don't you say anything? Why are you dressed like this? Little Spider put Xiaoye on the ground and asked immediately. This is the fourth time this question has been asked after Xiaoye appeared on the battlefield. Just pick it up, it's still a princess hug. Are you looking for trouble? Xiaoye was so ashamed and angry that she didn't want to pay attention to him at all. She was determined not to admit that this was him, life or death. A good-looking man turned into a pervert. It's okay to become a pervert, but it was actually broadcast live on the entire network. Xiaoye glanced at the helicopter flying in the sky not far away, and could clearly see a reporter shouting excitedly and a reporter carrying a camera inside photographer. He really wanted to take it down. For the sake of my own glorious image, I absolutely cannot admit that the person wearing women's underwear and denim crotch today is me. Let this mysterious character, who will only appear once, disappear into history forever. The Green Goblin was a little dazed by Xiaoye's hit, and he swayed twice in midair before he stabilized. For him, the situation is not optimistic. It's already very difficult to deal with just one Spider-Man, but now there's another pervert with unknown origins, and he's pretty good too. It seems that it is impossible to kill Spider-Man today. We have to retreat first and then find an opportunity. That's it for the dance. Goodbye, boys, he shouted, then dropped all the remaining dozen pumpkin bombs and prepared to take off. Hearing this, Xiaoyi suddenly became anxious, and quickly shouted, "Hey, don't go away," at the Green Goblin, and then rushed towards the Green Goblin. As a result, he was faced with a lot of pumpkin bombs, and he had no choice but to dodge them. When the pumpkin bomb exploded, I looked up at the sky and saw that the Green Goblin was gone. Turning his head, Spider-Man looked at himself curiously. "You can speak Chinese, you must be the master. Why don't you speak? Is there any purpose for dressing like this? Get out. Stay away from me." Xiaoyi was so angry that she rolled her eyes at Spider-Man, turned around and left. He urgently needed to get some normal clothes and find a place where no one was around to change into them. I lost face today, let the Green Goblin run away, and didn't get the redemption points. Xiaoyi felt that today's almanac must have written that it was not appropriate to go out. Spider-Man was not angry when he heard this. He originally wanted to follow the master to see what the master wanted to do, but gave up after thinking about it. Maybe it's because there are reporters here and it's hard to talk to him. I'll call the master later and ask again. I heard that Chinese Kung Fu pays attention to one's state of mind, so the master must have some intention. He was very interested in it. Then I'm leaving, master. The little spider happily greeted Xiaoyi, shot out the spider silk and swung away. Xiaoyi was filled with shame and anger, avoiding the pursuit of helicopters and walking through the streets that had become ruins. Finally, she found a public toilet near a bus stop and hid in it. He took out his cell phone from his crotch, it was the only place he could put anything on his body, and called Lorna. "I'll send you a location. You can find something I can wear as soon as possible and send it over. Don't ask why, you won't want to know." Xiaoyi said immediately as soon as the call was connected. There was silence on the other end of the phone, and Sky's smiling voice came, "I know why, Mr. Strongman." "A strongman?" Xiaoyi was stunned. "Yes, jockey. The New York radio reporter got you the name," Sky said with a smile. "We watched the live broadcast on our mobile phones. By the way, Lorna was right to her. She was laughing so hard that she couldn't speak. Mom sells batches." Chapter 36 The End of the Date. Xiaoyi's date with Lorna still fell through. After Lorna went home and got the clothes and sent them all the way to him, Xiaoyi finally changed out of his perverted suit. I looked at the time on my phone and saw that it was almost time for the movie to end. Alas. Xiaoyi sighed, feeling helpless. Does this mean that even if I am reborn and travel through time, I still cannot change my fate? So when Xiaoyi walked out of the public restroom, Lorna saw a sad expression on his face. "It's like I just couldn't get out of my big baby in the toilet, and my constipation is quite serious." Xiaoyi raised his head and glanced at the stars in the sky. Well, the city lights were too bright and he couldn't see anything clearly. But this did not affect his sad mood, after all, today was so unlucky. He sighed deeply, feeling sad for his spring and autumn. He even wanted to recite poetry, but he didn't have the talent. Originally, Xiaoyi looked quite miserable now, but Lorna took one look at him and burst into laughter. Suddenly, the desolate atmosphere disappeared. "Are you laughing at me? You must be laughing at me, right?" Xiaoyi was filled with grief and anger. No, I just remembered a joke." Lorna waved her hands quickly and put on a serious expression. "You are obviously laughing at me," Xiaoyi accused. "Well, you can't blame me. The way you looked in a halter top just now was so funny." "Ha ha ha ha." Lorna simply laughed. Xiaoyi's face became even more bitter. 35XS. He felt that he was an idiot. There was a radio helicopter in the sky at that time, and he would definitely be photographed at that time. Others might not recognize him yet, but Lorna knew he was going to teach the Green Goblin a lesson. Even if you don't watch the live broadcast at the time, you will see it on TV later. If I happened to be watching TV with Lorna at that time, the situation might be even more embarrassing. Don't look for trouble if your clothes are torn. Just go home and change your clothes and take Lorna to a movie. Why do you have to show off your skills? Taking another look at the time machine in the System Mall, it was still marked with a sky-high price that he could never afford. There was no way to go back in time and try again. He wished he could stab himself and travel through time again. My clothes were blown to pieces by the Green Goblin. There was nothing I could do, forget it. Where is Sky? Xiaoyi wanted to explain, but after thinking about it, he decided not to do it and asked instead. She went back. Lorna glanced at Xiaoyi warily, put away the smile on her face, and replied. She has her own affairs. It's not good to bother her all the time. It's up to me to collect intelligence in the future. Well, okay, pay attention to safety in the future. Xiaoyi nodded and took out 2 crumpled movie tickets from his trouser pocket. I'm sorry, it seems that the movie can't be watched. Lorna was stunned for a moment, then suddenly reached out to take away the movie tickets, put them on her lips and kissed them. It doesn't matter, I will keep them as a souvenir. Xiaoyi was stunned. He decided never to tell Lorna that the 2 movie tickets she kissed were stuffed into his crotch along with the mobile phone. What's wrong with you? Lorna asked suspiciously when she saw Xiaoyi's expression. Strawberry. Nothing. Looking at Lorna's face, Xiaoyi thought of her failed date again and began to feel sad again. In fact, I have reserved a restaurant, but it's too late now. So much money wasted. Xiaoyi added with a forced smile. Lorna didn't say anything and started staring at Xiaoyi's face. For half a minute, Xiaoyi was stared at so hard that she couldn't help but ask, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" Before he could finish speaking, his mouth was blocked. He stared in shock at Lorna's bright eyes that suddenly came close to him and stared at him. He felt a pair of soft lips suddenly covering her mouth, and his mind went blank. The lips were so passionate that something pried open his teeth and reached into his mouth. After a while, this beautiful kiss ended. Only then did Xiaoyi realize that she had been forcefully kissed by Lorna. I kissed Miss Polaris. Am I dreaming? The summer night was like falling into a dream, and I couldn't come back to my senses for a long time. I've had enough of Eastern euphemisms, it's better to be more direct. Lorna said with a smile. With this kiss, it's not a bad date, isn't it? She spoke very freely, but her slightly red face told Xiaoyi that she was not at peace either. To be honest, I didn't feel it carefully just now. How about we do it again? Xiaoyi subconsciously suggested. Lorna's face turned even redder, but she still raised her head, closed her eyes slightly, and looked like she was letting everyone take the initiative. You have to take the initiative this time. Xiaoyi suddenly became excited, took a deep breath, calmed down her excited mood, and gradually moved closer to Lorna's face. Congratulations on getting rich, congratulations on getting rich. At this moment, Andy's singing interrupted their charming atmosphere. The phone rang. Xiaoyi turned it off without even looking at it, took another deep breath and prepared to continue, but her phone rang again. Answer the phone first. Lorna opened her eyes, looked away slightly, and said shyly. Maybe there is something important. Okay. Xiaoyi had no choice but to take out her phone. It was actually Little Spider calling. If you can't beat me, I'll take a taxi to your house and beat you up. Hey, what's going on? Xiaoyi answered the phone and asked angrily. Master, you were the one wearing denim underwear just now, right? Why did you dress like that? I remember your suit was quite handsome. Oh, I understand, you must tell me that superheroes don't just look at what you wear. What, it depends on what you did, right? Master, I will definitely remember it. By the way, I am already very proficient in the Langya Fong Fong fist you gave me. What should I do? Are you looking for me now? I can't wait to learn new tricks, Bala, Bala. As soon as the call was connected, Little Spider kept ringing for more than a minute. The more Xiaoyi listened, the darker his face became. Shut up. Don't disturb me now, otherwise you won't learn anything from me anymore. He interrupted the Little Spider through gritted teeth and directly disconnected the phone. Turning around, Xiaoyi looked at Lorna expectantly. Shall we continue? Lorna nodded shyly. Xiaoyi took another deep breath and gradually moved towards Lorna's face. Congratulations on getting rich, congratulations on getting rich. Xiaoyi decided to change this cell phone ringtone. Answering the phone angrily, Xiaoyi yelled, "Fuck." I said, "Don't bother me now, do you still think of me as your master?" "I'm sorry, I didn't know it was inconvenient for you right now, but the matter is really urgent." Unexpectedly, it was not Little Spider on the other end of the phone, but his stockbroker. "I followed your instructions and swept up all the stocks on the market when the value of Stark Industries dropped to 50%. Your funds have basically been spent. Now you own 6% of Stark Industries shares. According to Stark Industries regulations, you have the right to attend the board of directors. The board of directors has sent a notice inviting you to attend the board meeting at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. Do you want to go?" Chapter 37 Staney. No matter what, even if the Earth is going to be destroyed, it is not as important as Lorna and me now. Xiaoyi thought like this and wanted to hang up the phone. However, Lorna obviously vaguely heard the voice on the phone and knew it was business, so she immediately gave him a, "You're dead if you dare to hang up the phone" look. Yo, this feeling is the sour smell of love. Xiaoyi's dissatisfaction suddenly disappeared, replaced by a sweet smile, and said softly, "Ah, it's okay, it's the board of directors, I will definitely go, just send me the address by email." "It's so late, have you eaten? You must pay attention to your diet. You Westerners just don't pay attention to health care. Do you know about health care? The Eastern Chinese tradition can make people live healthier and longer. At your age, you must drink more hot water. It's best to soak some wolfberry." "Sir, are you in love? First love?" On the other end of the phone, the agent suddenly said this. "Ah. Is it so obvious?" Xiaoyi was stunned. "At your age, only love can make people gentle. I will pay attention to my health. Maybe I will go to China after a while and see that magical country," the agent said with emotion. "Well, I wish you a pleasant journey." Xiaoyi agreed. "Well, bye then. Goodbye." Call ended. 35xs. Xiaoyi turned her head again and looked at Lorna expectantly. Lorna rolled her eyes at Xiaoyi, turned around and left. "It's time for me to rest and go home." "You can't do this." "We agreed." Xiaoyi wailed and quickly followed. The day. Perhaps because of the sense of crisis brought by Sky, perhaps because she was fed up with Xiaoyi's straight male cancer, Lorna took the initiative. The two did not make it clear, but at least they established a relationship between boyfriend and girlfriend. However, neither Xiaoyi, who has been born in 2 generations, nor Xiaoyi, who is new to the world, has no experience in how to interact between men and women, so they ate breakfast in silence. There was a lot of eye contact, but neither of them knew what to say. "I'm going out." This was the first thing he said to Lorna this summer night, and then he set off to attend the Stark Industries board meeting. Is this what love is like? Something feels wrong. Xiaoyi took a taxi with doubts, and after more than 20 minutes drive, she arrived at the bottom of Stark Tower. The current Stark Tower is not the huge building with a strong sense of design that Tony built. Judging from the surrounding signs, this industrial area should be Stark Industries' most famous weapons department. This place is heavily guarded. Looking through the gate, you can see a team of well-trained armed guards and even a police dog. Strawberry. After getting off the taxi, Xiaoyi felt a little worried. I look like a child and have nothing to prove my identity. How should I get in? Break in directly. Then he met some arrogant security guards, pretended to be board members, slapped them in the face, and fired them. This routine was very disappointing to the audience, and it was also suspected of bullying vulnerable groups. People are also working. It is not easy for many people to have a family and a job. I feel uneasy when people lose their jobs just because of the number of words. The kind-hearted Xiaoyi decided to call Stanny, the Iron Overlord in the movie and Iron Man's uncle. I remember that in the email his agent sent him yesterday, there was Stanny's phone call. "Hello, is this Stanny?" Xiaoyi asked after the phone was connected. "I am, you are." "I am Xiaoyi, and you invited me to join the board of directors." "Oh, are you here? I'll go down to pick you up right away. This damn security system always stops people who shouldn't be stopped." "Haha, at least you stopped what should be stopped, right?" "You're right. I'm about to enter the elevator. Just wait where you are. I'll be there soon." Do. Stanley's reaction was a bit beyond his expectation. He was a little too enthusiastic and actually came down to pick him up in person. But then I thought about it, and in the midst of the cleanup, Stanley seemed to want to take control of the entire Stark Industries. At least he had 6% of Stark Industries shares, and was the largest shareholder besides Tony and Stark. With his temperament, Stanley will definitely try to recruit. Xia, who knew the plot in advance, ignored this point and just wanted to see if she could get to know Tony Stark through this board meeting. In the entire Marvel Universe, Xia's favorite is this superhero, especially Iron Man played by Downey, who has a different kind of personality charm. Poor Stanley, maybe I will help Iron Man hammer you. Soon Stanley arrived, standing at the door and looking around, looking for Xia. Originally, Xia didn't remember what Stanley looked like. Even after watching Iron Man, Stanley's appearance was not impressive. But looking at it now, it seems that this old guy is quite handsome, and he must have been very popular with girls when he was young. Xia walked forward with a smile and stretched out her right hand towards the astonished Stanley. Hello, I am Xia. You are Stanley, right? I have seen your appearance on the news. Oh my god, I was suspicious just now on the phone. I didn't expect you to be so young. Stanley also stretched out his right hand and shook Xia's hand. Nice to meet you. You are happy too early. Xia said silently in her heart, with a shy smile on her face. Miracles always happen in the stock market, and age is never a problem. You're right. Stanley nodded. Then let's go. Those stubborn people on the board of directors will be shocked by you. The two walked into the building together, and what they entered was the huge arc reactor, which was several stories high. As the key to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it is so majestic and charming. Seeing Xia stop, Stanley started to explain, this is the arc reactor, the cleanest energy in the world, which is unique to our Stark Industries. Even if the weapons department is really closed, with this, we can create a market value that is no less than that of Stark Industries now. I have to say that you have a good vision, and joining Stark Industries is definitely the best decision you have made. Of course. Xia replied with a smile. I have always believed in the strength of Stark Industries and the creativity of Tony Stark. That's why I took advantage of the opportunity to buy your stocks after the Stark Industries weapons department was closed. I have a deep interest in Stark Industries' confidence. Xia smiled happily. This is a long-term meal ticket. Stark Industries is the most famous company in the Marvel world. With this 6% stake, he can proudly say in the future, money is just a number to me. I never make friends based on whether they have money or not. Anyway, no one has money like me, well, except for Tony Stark. Chapter 38 Board of Directors. Stanley took Xia to visit many places. Whether intentionally or unintentionally, most of the weapons he visited were weapons designed by Stark Industries. Strawberry Summer Night also stopped for a while at the place where she visited the Jericho missile. Although it was only briefly glimpsed in the movie, Xia was deeply impressed by its huge power. It's almost time, sorry, the tour can only go here, the board of directors meeting is about to begin. Stanley glanced at his watch and said. The board of directors are all old fogies like me, and they are very strict about their time. You are not stubborn. Xia smiled. How could he be a stubborn person who could think of contacting terrorists to kill Tony? Haha, I hope so too. Stanley smiled happily. Let's go. This time the board of directors is in the conference room on the 21st floor. We need to leave early. A few minutes later, Xia and Stanley arrived at the board meeting room. Unlike the expected serious scene, these directors looked more like a few old men drinking tea together. After Stanley introduced Xia to the board members, he raised the topic of the board meeting. Do they want to join forces to expel Tony Stark, who is impulsive, irritable, and does things based on personal preferences, from the board of directors and ban him as CEO? The meeting was very lively, and Stanley was trying his best to convince every shareholder. Xia did not participate. He has not yet joined the Stark Industries board of directors. Now he is just invited by Stanley to observe. After the observation, it depends on Xia whether he wants to join the board of directors. He is currently having a heated chat with a shareholder. This shareholder is called Brandon, a middle-aged Mediterranean man, and his status as a Stark Industries shareholder is only part-time. His main business is a company called U. L Biopharmaceutical Company, its official headquarters is in Raccoon City, a small city in the western United States. That's right, the name of this company translates into Chinese as Umbrella Company. Xiaoyi was shocked when she heard this guy introduce himself. After asking carefully, he found out that his company's current research direction is only Captain America's super soldier serum. Their current goal is to recreate that serum, then work with the US military. Xiaoyi, who was desperate for death, began to make suggestions to Brandon, telling him that there was no need to strengthen humans. It would be easier to use viruses to create powerful biological weapons that could obey orders. You know, soldiers will have their own thoughts and will disobey orders or even defect, but weapons will not. What's even better is that if we only provide weapons, we don't know how to create viruses, and the key technology will be difficult to crack. This is a monopoly, Xiaoyi said in confusion. The US super soldier plan was a mistake. A lot of money was wasted, and the result was a Captain America. Captain America can't resist bullets, but maybe weapons can. Are you right? What a genius idea. I think I can try it. Strawberry, Brandon said excitedly. Also, if this virus can produce biological weapons, it will definitely have the effect of strengthening the body and even increasing lifespan. If it is put into the civilian market, how much profit can it bring? Perhaps, the US military will also be interested. Xiaoyi continued to confuse. Oh my god, you're right, maybe we can use viruses to achieve the effect of the super soldier serum, and we don't necessarily have to restore the medicine from the past. Brandon looked full of longing. I heard that a flower called the sun staircase that grows in the ruins of the Dibai tribe in West Africa contains an A-form viral substance that can enhance the human body's abilities and extend human life. However, complementing these functions is the highly toxic nature of this substance, which few people can withstand and eventually lead to death. Because of the existence of this substance, the stairway to the sun has always been known as the local Dubaya. The tribe regards it as a holy object, and was used as a test object for king's selection in ancient times. Of course, this is just a legend, but I believe that any legend is not groundless. Xiaoyi threw out a big killing weapon again. Is there really such a legend? I will check it out. If it is true, I am willing to give you 10% of my company's shares. Brandon said in surprise. No, this is just a friendly suggestion from a friend. How can I ask for your shares? By the way, I prefer cash to shares. Xiaoyi waved her hands quickly. Just kidding, if this guy really goes to study the Stairway of the Sun, the legendary ancestor virus, this guy's company will definitely become a notorious villain in Marvel. Want shares in a villain company? Is that what a righteous superhero should do? Hey, what are you talking about? At this moment, Staney came over and interrupted. Oh, you don't know, Yi is really a genius. His suggestions greatly shortened the research time of our company. Brandon smiled like a flower. This is definitely the most valuable advice of this century, and I am willing to pay $4 billion for it. Don't reject me, Mr. Xiaoyi. You have done me a big favor. Xiaoyi was about to say something when she was interrupted by Brandon. No, what I want to say is that my bank card number is XXXXXXXXXX. Xiaoyi said with a smile. It seems that you really put forward a very good suggestion. Stanley gave Xiaoyi a thoughtful look. Would you mind chatting alone? Of course. Xiaoyi nodded. When Brandon saw this, he left knowingly, and Stanley took Xiaoyi to a corner of the conference room. What do you think of today's issue? Stanley asked straight to the point. It's a good suggestion. We can't let a mentally unstable person take control of the entire company. Xiaoyi affirmed Stanley's proposal. Just when Stanley's face showed joy, he immediately said, but my confidence in Stark Industries comes largely from the genius inventor Tony Stank. Of course, if he really says what you said, that way, I will agree with you and make my voice heard. I need to meet him in person and have a chat with him to confirm my opinion. Maybe closing the Stark Weapons department is just a bad joke on his part. Stanley frowned when he heard this and took a deep look at Xiaoyi, as if he was trying to figure out whether this guy had any purpose, but he didn't see anything. It stands to reason that this young man who appeared out of nowhere is too mysterious and cannot be trusted at all. But he really doesn't have much time. 6% of the shares is enough to make all his efforts in vain. There is no way out. Listening to what the other party said, it seemed that he was also dissatisfied with Tony closing the weapons department, so he should be able to fight for it. Okay, I will help you make an appointment with Tony Stark in the near future, but I don't know whether he will meet you or not. Staney still agreed to Xiaoye's request. You know, he just escaped death and is mentally unstable. No problem, I understand. Xiaoye extended her right hand to Staney. Have you enjoyed working together? It's a pleasure to work with you. Staney held it without hesitation. Xiaoye smiled even brighter. Chapter 39 Tony Stark. Staney was really anxious, so he called Xiaoye the day after the board meeting and told him that Tony Stark had agreed to meet with him. The time will be about 2 days later, which is Saturday this week. After Xiaoye hung up the phone, she looked at her phone thoughtfully. For some reason, Staney didn't call him from his mobile phone, but from a landline. According to the caller ID, the number on the landline was from Afghanistan. So, has Staney already gone to get the Mark I-type steel suit? So the mecha battle between Iron Man and Iron Overlord shouldn't be far away, right? I wonder if I can beat such a tough guy. If I can beat him, what will it feel like to beat him? Xiaoye is extremely looking forward to it. 2 days later. On a summer night, I took a taxi to Tony Stark's beach house. It was too far here, and many taxis were unwilling to pull him there. It wasn't until Xiaoye offered $1,000 to the driver that he pulled him here. Xiaoye's desire to buy a car becomes stronger and stronger. Unfortunately, Americans cannot take a driver's license until they are 16, and they cannot drive independently before they are 17. Tony Stark's villa has no guards or bodyguards. It looks empty from the gate, but it doesn't feel deserted. Inside is a large lawn that serves as a private golf course. The villa is also very well designed and gives people a very high-end feeling. It has a feeling of, this is a rich person's home. Strawberry. There was an identification card at the door. As soon as Xiaoye walked in, looking for a doorbell or something, a monitor to the door lit up, and Tony Stark's face with thick eyebrows and big eyes appeared on it. Are you Xiaoye? That genius financier? On the screen, Tony Stark asked with great interest. Yes, I am. Xiaoye replied calmly. You're even more handsome than in the photo, of course you're still a little less handsome than me. Tony tilted his head. I gave you temporary permission. Come up, welcome to my villa. After saying that, the monitor went off and the door slowly opened. Xiaoye walked in slowly and calmly. But when he looked up at the villa in the distance, he was no longer indifferent. The villa is at least 1 kilometer away from the gate, across the entire golf course. Xiaoye didn't want to expose her ability, so she could only walk up slowly. 10 minutes later, Xiaoye arrived at the front door of the villa. After recognizing his identity, the door slowly opened. Walking into the villa, a rich atmosphere hit her face. Xiaoye strengthened her determination to buy something similar in the future. He spotted Tony Stark, the future Iron Man, watching TV in the living room. On the projection TV, which looks like a movie theater curtain, the content broadcast is exactly the scene of Ken and Spider-Man fighting the Green Goblin, and it is also accompanied by an emotional report from a New York reporter. As soon as Xiaoye saw herself on the curtain wearing a denim crotch and a women's halter top, she wanted to find a plug to unplug the power. Stanny told me that you admire me very much. I think you have found a good idol. Tell me, what do you want me to do? You have half an hour. Tony lay back on the sofa and took a sip of red wine. Looked back at Xiaoye, and then at the clock on the wall. Oh, by the way, the time you just walked up is also included. So you still have, well, 12 minutes. Time is precious, man, speak faster. Does Tony Stark deserve a beating so much? Xiaoye, whose face was full of dark lines, sat down on the sofa to Tony. Hey, man, I didn't ask you to sit down. I know the truth about your attack in Afghanistan. Tony turned his head, his eyes still fixed on the TV news. Just as he was about to express his dissatisfaction, he was interrupted by Xiaoye. He finally turned his eyes. Nice stunt, you successfully attracted my attention. But you don't seem to have gone through any investigation. They only attacked me to kidnap me and let me help them make weapons. Donnie, guess who leaked your whereabouts? It couldn't be the US military, right? Xiaoyi asked with a smile. The US government is investigating. There are many people who know my whereabouts. Do you have any news? Tony seemed to be interested. Also, my name is Tony, and you are an unqualified admirer. Of course I have news. Downey, maybe. Hey, Tony. Say it to me, Tony, Tony. Tony said dissatisfied. Okay Donnie, I got it, Donnie. Xiaoyi said with a smile, and then continued in Tony's resentful eyes, maybe you think I am sowing discord, but I still want to tell you that the mastermind behind all this is your uncle, Staney. He thinks you will destroy Stark Industries, so he decided to get rid of you. In addition, he is already uniting with other shareholders to oust you from the position of CEO. So are you showing your loyalty, Mr. Xiaoyi? Do you think I will win? Tony glanced at Xiaoyi with some disgust. I have always had full confidence in you, but I am not loyal to you. In the future, I will be your partner. Xiaoyi didn't care and said with a smile. Stark Industries is mine, I don't need a partner. Tony said coldly, returning his attention to the TV show. Now, you can leave. Of course, I've said everything that needs to be said. Xiaoyi shrugged, and then took out a business card from his pocket. This was specially made for today's meeting, with only his name and phone number on it. If you're in trouble, give me a call. Trust me, Donnie, I can save anyone you want. Putting the business card on the table, Xiaoyi stood up and walked towards the door. Tony's furious voice came from behind, Tony. Damn it, fuck Donnie, my name is Tony. Walking out of the villa, Xiaoyi stared at the endless wilderness and beach in a daze. Now that we are here, how should we go back? Apart from Tony, there wasn't even a person in this shitty place, let alone a car. Then I saw a red convertible classic car slowly driving over. Taking a closer look, isn't it Coulson who is driving? Why did he come here? Iron Man hasn't been born yet, right? I don't even know if the Mal 2 type has been designed yet, right? By the way, Tony Stark's father is one of the founders of S.H.I.E.L.D., and I remember there was a post on a forum in my ES life saying that S.H.I.E.L.D. and Stark Industries had hidden shares. Could it be that he was looking for Tony? Want money? Anyway, just take me back. As soon as the vehicle stopped, Xiaoyi jumped into the passenger seat with excitement on her face. Thank God, I'm worried about how to get back. Are you here to see Tony? It doesn't matter, I can wait in the car. No, Mr. Xiaoyi. Coulson looked serious. I'm here to find you. Chapter 40 Trouble. You should take a look at this. Strawberry. Coulson took out his tablet and operated on it. Xiaoyi reluctantly suddenly appeared out of thin air with a translucent light curtain. Wow, the equipment has been upgraded. Xiaoyi sighed and looked at the light screen. On the light screen were several videos, showing him flying across the roof when he rushed to fight the Green Goblin a few days ago. It can be seen that most of them were taken with mobile phones. The pictures are not very clear and keep shaking. Those shot on the street were okay, but there were a few videos shot by someone from the windows of those high-rise buildings, but fortunately they couldn't see him clearly. This is me. What's wrong? Didn't you take a clear picture of my face? Xiaoyi asked doubtfully. It's already troublesome to take a picture of your face. Coulson said seriously. He swiped his hand on the tablet twice more. On the light screen in front of Xiaoyi, one of the videos suddenly enlarged to fill the entire screen, and then paused on a picture of his face. Then the screen zoomed in on his face. Because it's too big, it looks like a bunch of pixels. Coulson operated the light screen a few more times, and his face became clearer and clearer, like peeling off layers of frosted glass. It's still a little blurry at the end, but it's still easy to recognize that this is his face. Picture sharpening technology has become popular in the police field. In fact, someone in the US military has proposed arresting you. I have been dealing with this matter these days. Coulson said seriously, and then adjusted show a picture. The scene on the screen was the news program Tony had just watched, the scene where he and Spider-Man fought the Green Goblin. Buffed. Hearing this voice, Xiaoyi immediately turned her head and stared at Coulson in alertness. Did you just laugh? No. We S.H.I.E.L.D. agents have all gone through strict emotion management training. No matter how funny it is, we will never laugh. Coulson denied righteously. Xiaoyi continued to look at him suspiciously. I heard the sneer just now, but I remember that Coulson seemed to be a serious person. Did I really hear it wrong? Although your disguise is very distinctive, those videos can basically restore your route and confirm that you are the Jianren. We have deleted all videos on the internet, but this is only for the public. For the government, including to all special organizations including you, your existence is no longer a secret. Coulson acted as if nothing had happened, trying his best to exaggerate the seriousness of the matter. To be honest, you may be attacked at any time. Your abilities have been exposed, and they may send out superpowers. Are there people with superpowers? Xiaoye's expression became very strange, looking both happy and worried. As a scion, the warlike gene in his bones made him yearn for the upcoming dangerous life, thinking that this would be good. But his soul is a human being who knows how to seek advantages and avoid disadvantages. Reason tells him that he is not yet capable of protecting Lorna and needs to keep a low profile. This matter must be resolved. Fortunately, humans have always been very good at suppressing instincts, so Xiaoyi just breathed heavily before returning to normal. Then what should I do? Xiaoyi asked. Coulson narrowed his eyes. Just sit and don't move. Director Fury wants to see you, I will take you there. Strawberry. After saying that, Coulson controlled the car to turn around and drive into the distance. Coulson took Xiaoyi to a deserted bookstore, opened a secret door in a room, and led Xiaoyi inside. After walking down a flight of stairs and a long corridor, they entered a room enclosed on all sides. Inside, a bald black man wearing a leather windbreaker was pointing the back of his head at him. Director, Summer Night is here. Coulson reported and left the room, closing the door as he left. The lights in the room were very dim, a bit ominous. But looking at the big black bald head, Xiaoyi inexplicably remembered the Banana King who wore a red scarf and danced sexy in the ES life, and thought that now he was alone in the same room, and suddenly felt that the atmosphere suddenly became philosophical. He shuddered, shook his head quickly, and stopped thinking. You are such a magical person. At this time, Fury suddenly turned around and looked deeply at Xiaoyi. The moment, several light screens lit up behind him, with videos and information about him on them. Fury held a document in his hand, opened it and began to read. On June 64, 83, at 85 p.m., the small house between RD and TH Street, block, first appeared in New York City. Lane, with a tail. The day the tail disappeared. As he spoke, a video of the light screen behind him zoomed in. It was the scene of him walking out of the street wearing the clothes he wore in his ES life. It seemed to have been captured by a surveillance camera. On the screen, the wagging tail behind Xiaoyi is very eye-catching, attracting the attention of passers-by. 1 year later, he showed his superhuman strength for the first time, seriously injuring 3 robbers and saving a woman. The picture changed to a bottom-up perspective, which was very dim and unclear, but it was indeed the scene of him saving people when he completed the system's daily mission for the first time. Is this satellite video? Another half-month later, wearing a black robe and a threaded mask, he started robbing gangsters. The scene showed him wearing the uniform of the Akatsuki organization and fighting with gangs. What robbery? That is the reasonable acquisition of funds for the execution of justice. As a full-time superhero, you should have some income, right? Xiaoyi was very dissatisfied with Fury's words. On the night of August 22, 2007, they attacked the famous entrepreneur Wilson Fisk, who is also the largest leader of the American underground gang, Kingpin, and extorted a total of $20 billion. I have to say that this is better than robbing a bank. It's much faster to make money. You had contact with us afterwards, but you didn't seem to trust us, and Coulson did not choose to take further action. The scene changed to the image Coulson showed him of him defeating the Kingpin with one blow. Only a week or so later, I fought with Daredevil and his girlfriend Erica at an abandoned construction site in the suburbs of New York. I met the mutant Lorna, and she was intact despite her out-of-control abilities, showing super physical strength. That's when we discovered that you were actually getting stronger. The picture shows him the whole process from when Lorna's abilities started to go out of control to when Lorna's abilities calmed down again. After that, I sent Coulson to contact you again and learned that you are becoming more and more powerful through a special method, and this method can be popularized. Coulson took it upon himself to include you as an observation object in a plan that has not yet been launched. He did a great job. Fury grinned and closed the file in his hand. So, you came to me to find a way for me to become stronger. Are you so confident that my method will work? Xiaoyi raised her eyebrows and asked. Everything about him seemed to have been stripped clean, which made him very unhappy. More importantly, there was Hydra lurking in S.H.I.E.L.D., which meant that Hydra also had information about him. Of course, you know, our intelligence system is very sophisticated, and we will know some things even if we don't want to know, such as your relationship with Spider-Man. His abilities have indeed increased, haven't they? Fury nodded. He said, but immediately changed the topic, as for the method of obtaining your enhanced abilities. I originally thought so, but before meeting today, I carefully checked your information and found some very interesting things. Very interesting thing. Xiaoyi had an ominous premonition. Want to listen? Fury put the file in his hand on the table at hand, took out a small book from his pocket, and began to read without waiting for his answer. Tale. The first time I saw it, 03, I called it 03, which is Lorna's name. The first time I saw a little girl named Sky, I called Wang Qiying, Shockwave Girl. Name. In the stock market, a large number of Stark Industries shares were bought when Tony Stark was still in Afghanistan, a large number of shares were sold when Tony Stark was rescued, and the stock fell below when Tony Stark announced the closure of the weapons department. Buying in large quantities at the TH mark. Suspected to have the ability to be a prophet, he became a major shareholder holding % of Stark Industries shares. What are all these things about? Are you interested in answering? Fury raised his eyes and looked at Xiaoyi meaningfully and asked Chapter 41 9 Snakes. Sure enough, it came. As a time traveler, before time travel, he was just an ordinary otaku. He had not undergone any confidentiality training, so he would naturally reveal many unnatural things. Strawberry, who finally traveled to the Marvel world, had to do something he had fantasized about for a long time. Fortunately, he had anticipated this situation and thought of an excuse. I said that I am a time traveler. In fact, during the process of time travel, I saw many fragments of the past and the future. I don't know the principle, but it is a fact. Xiaoyi explained. As for the tale. To be honest, in our world, there are even people with animal heads. I'm not special. I just came to this world and saw that no one else had a tail, so I cut it off. See a fragment of the future. Fury frowned. I will verify it with our physicists. What did you see? A lot, but I only remember part of it. By the way, there's something about S.H.I.E.L.D., do you want to listen? A trace of a smirk appeared on Xiaoyi's lips. About us. S.H.I.E.L.D. Fury was a little surprised. S.H.I.E.L.D. Otherwise, why do you think I'm not too angry even if you monitor me like this? Xiaoyi laughed. I knew about S.H.I.E.L.D. as soon as I came into this world. S.H.I.E.L.D. is a good name. Tell me, I'm very interested. Fury touched his chin and said. Is it safe here? Xiaoyi first looked around, then whispered mysteriously. Safe. Fury nodded. Only me and a limited number of agents know about this safe house, and the listening devices have just been checked before use. That's good. Xiaoyi smiled with satisfaction, raised her eyebrows, and showed a meaningful expression. Hydra knows, right? Of course, the organization was eliminated during World War II. Fury explained simply. Do you really think Hydra can be wiped out so easily? Xiaoyi said with a smile. Cut off one head and two will grow. Do you think this is a joke? You mean, there are still remnants of Hydra? Fury was no longer calm. As a former member of the Howling Commandos, no one understands the horrors of Hydra better than he does. Do you know where they are? Of course I know. But what are you going to exchange for it? Xiaoyi smiled even happier. I won't pay any conditions for information whose authenticity is uncertain. Fury's face suddenly darkened. Besides, I will erase all traces of you on the internet. You don't think the trouble you caused is small, do you? Xiaoyi was stunned when he heard this. Wasn't the strawberry accidentally exposed? At that time, Iron Man announced his true identity in public, and there was no trouble. Is there any other secret? After pondering for a while, Xiaoyi spoke again. Okay, I'll treat this information as a gift to you. Hydra is right under your nose, but you can't see it. What do you mean? Hydra is in the United States. Fury frowned and asked in confusion. No, it needs to be closer. Hydra is in S.H.I.E.L.D. Xiaoyi said meaningfully. In S.H.I.E.L.D. Fury was shocked. Impossible. If there was Hydra lurking in S.H.I.E.L.D., I would have discovered it long ago. Of course. No matter what Hydra wants to do, you will definitely be able to detect it as long as it takes action. But what if they don't do anything? Xiaoyi said with a smile. As far as I know, from the time S.H.I.E.L.D. absorbed Hydra scientists during World War II, it has now been infiltrated into a sieve. It can be said that the current S.H.I.E.L.D. is Hydra wearing the shell of S.H.I.E.L.D. I really don't know what you think about letting those brainwashed scientists join S.H.I.E.L.D. Finally, Xiaoyi added. Fury was silent. Xiaoyi could see the sweat on his forehead. Apparently he also noticed that something was wrong, but he just figured it out now. I will verify the information you provided. Finally, Fury said. In addition, I will send an agent, to be your disciple. Not only to verify your method of letting ordinary people master superpowers, but also to evaluate your behavior. Don't worry, he will not interfere with your normal life. No problem. But are you sure the agents you sent are trustworthy? Xiaoyi spread his hands and raised a question. He had already expected that Fury would send agents, but he didn't expect that the people around him would be sent out directly. If the intelligence you provided is true, then you will be much more important than you think. I will not send a low-level agent, at least an agent of the same level as Coulson, and I am sure he is trustworthy. Fury replied. That's good, I accept it. Xiaoyi nodded and agreed. Fury strode open the door and left. Then Coulson walked in and took Xiaoyi out of here. I thought that S.H.I.E.L.D. would soon send agents to come and apprentice, but now a week has passed and there is still no news. The past few days in Xiaoyi have been very ordinary. Training during the day, Lorna tried to find topics to chat with Lorna when she was at home. The two finally got rid of the initial embarrassment and could cuddle and kiss each other like an ordinary couple. This made Xiaoyi feel excited these days. As soon as it gets dark, Xiaoyi will wander around Stark Tower, just like waiting for Dr. Lizard, waiting for the Iron Overlord to appear. At that time, he made a promise to Tony, saying that he could save anyone he wanted to save. He remembered the plot of Iron Man very clearly. Pepper was in danger when Iron Overlord appeared, and Iron Man only caught up with him at the critical moment. Save Pebois. Now that he has appeared, no one can tell what consequences the butterfly effect will have. If Pepper dies, Tony Stark will definitely die of grief. In order not to make his favorite superhero in the Marvel world sad, it is better to advance in advance. Get ready. The thought of fighting a huge steel monster made his blood boil. He also specially brought his own combat index measuring device, intending to see how much combat effectiveness Iron Man and Iron Overlord wearing iron suits had. Another thing that makes Xiaoyi very embarrassing, the Kento suit he wore when he fought with the Green Goblin unexpectedly became popular among young people. Nowadays, you can often see men and women wearing women's halter tops and denim crotch tops on the street. Recently, there has even been a variation. The denim crotch cloth has been replaced by woolen ones. Don't you think it's too tight? That night, he was wandering around Stark Tower as usual, and suddenly saw a car parked in front of the Stark Tower gate from a distance, and then Coulson got out of the car. Xiaoyi immediately realized that the plot was about to begin. Chapter 42 Iron Overlord. Xiaoyi did not get involved immediately, but chose to walk into a nearby coffee shop and order a cup of coffee, waiting quietly for Tony's call. He originally wanted to save Tony. I remember that in the plot, he seemed to have the reactor removed from his chest by Stanny. But who made that guy talk so annoyingly? And I feel that with Tony's temperament, he won't ask for help just because he is in danger. Anyway, I just feel unhappy with that arrogant guy. On the other side, Tony had just escaped from a life-threatening situation, put on his steel suit, and took off from the villa to Stark Tower to rescue Pepper Potts. Jarvis. How long until we arrive at Stark Tower? Estimated about 5 minutes, sir. Damn it, you must build a villa closer to the city time. Help me immediately call the surveillance of Stark Tower and find Pepper. Sir, that would destroy Stark Industries' firewall. Fuck the firewall. JT. Doit. Yes, sir. A video window appeared in front of Tony, and it was the surveillance image of Stark Tower. On the video, Pepper had just entered the main entrance of Stark Tower with a group of agents in black suits. She actually brought agents of unknown origin into Stark Tower. Should I fire her? Oh, they broke into Area 16. This is not a good idea. Tony was a little anxious, and he felt that he might have to can't catch up. 35XS inexplicably, he thought of Xia Yi, the guy who always called him by the wrong name. Jarvis, did you record Xia Yi's phone call? After a moment of silence, Tony said. Yes, sir. Get him on the phone. Yes, sir. Congratulations, 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 congratulations. A festive song, Congratulations, with a strong Chinese New Year flavor resounded in a roadside coffee shop in the United States. Xia Yi ignored the other customers and store owners who saluted him, took out his cell phone and took a look. Sure enough, it was Tony. Just now I was worried that this narcissist would insist on saving Peibo by himself and not call him. Hey, Mr. Downey, who doesn't need a partner, why did you call me? Xia Yi teased Tony. Damn it, my name is Tony. You bastard. Tony still resented Xia Yi for calling him. Pepper is in danger, right in Stark Tower. You said you could save anyone, and I need you now. Of course, but you have to pay. Xia Yi said calmly. Stark Tower across the street was still quiet now, and he wasn't in any hurry. No problem, I will give you whatever money you want. Tony answered simply. No, I am also a major shareholder of Stark Industries. Do you think I will be short of money? Xia Yi smiled happily. You just need to apologize to me for your arrogant attitude. How about it? It's simple, right? I'm a kind person. Don't even think about it. Tony refused equally simply. Forcing a narcissist like him to apologize is simply more uncomfortable than killing him. Really? I'll give you another chance. In fact, I'm right across from Stark Tower now. Xia Yi said with a smile. Wow, it looks like there was an explosion in Stark Tower. You don't have much time, Downey. Xia Yi said, already walking out of the coffee shop. That being said, he would have taken action even if Tony didn't apologize. Forcing Tony to apologize was just out of his bad taste. Scolded. He saw clearly what happened in Stark Tower through the screen. Iron Overlord appeared and was chasing Pepper. Those agents were no match at all and could not cause harm to Iron Overlord at all. Fortunately, at the critical moment, Peibo rushed out of the closed door in Area 16. The strong closed door stopped Iron Overlord. He didn't even have time to consider why Xia Yi was there. Okay, I apologize. I'm sorry, Xia Yi. You damn bastard, go and save Peibo now. Tony finally gave in. He was still some distance away from Stark Tower, but he saw that Stanny was trying to break through the ceiling of the basement to get to the ground. The location where Stanny was breaking out of the ground was the door of Stark Tower, and Pepper was about to run there. Okay, I've recorded it. Leave Miss Pepper's safety to me, and I will deliver her to you safely. Xia Yi hung up the phone proudly. After cracking his fingers, Xia Yi put on his combat index measuring device, his eyes burning with fanatical flames. Now, let's have a big fight. When Xia Yi ran to the gate of Stark Tower, Peibo had just come out and answered Tony's call, complaining about the danger he encountered. Hey, beauty, I suggest you find a place to hide immediately. Xia Yi walked up behind her and patted her shoulder. Peibo turned around and was startled to see a yellow boy wearing strange unilateral glasses. Just as he was about to speak, he saw the ground in front of him bulge, then break open like an eggshell, and the Iron Overlord's mighty steel body crawled out. Xia Yi decisively pressed the other combat index measuring device on her ear and got the Iron Overlord's combat power, 1273. It seems that equipment is also included in combat effectiveness. But is Iron Overlord so strong? He now only has a combat power of over 300, which is 1/4 of the Iron Overlord's. However, this did not scare Xia Yi. On the contrary, he felt that the blood in his whole body began to boil. Yi, why are you here? Stanny's surprised voice came from Iron Overlord. I'm here to take care of you. Compared to you, I still prefer Donnie's narcissist, at least he's more interesting. Xiaoyi replied with a smile, and then waved one hand at Pei Bo behind his back. Stay away, if you get hurt, Donnie will fight me tooth and nail. Pei Bo was a little dazed, but Tony's voice on the phone reminded him, is it Xiaoyi? An Asian boy? Listen to him and find a place to hide. I'll be there soon. Although she didn't know what was going on, at least she trusted Tony, and she quickly turned around and ran away with her high heels on. Hey, you can't just run away. Iron Overlord suddenly stopped caring about Xiaoyi and raised the machine gun on his arm to aim at Pei Bo. However, the moment, Xiaoyi rushed in front of Iron Overlord at extremely fast speed, flew up from top to bottom and kicked him on the arm. The moment the machine gun fired, his arm suddenly rose, and a series of bullets shot into the air. This iron guy is really hard. Xiaoyi felt that her feet hurt. Good job, bastard. At this moment, Tony's passionate voice sounded in the air, and then with a roar, Iron Man hit Iron Overlord like a cannonball, knocked him away, smashed through the wall, and landed on the road more than 10 meters away. Don't steal my opponent. Xiaoyi suddenly became angry and followed the hole in the wall that was opened. The traffic outside was chaotic. Iron Overlord was holding a car high and ready to hit Iron Man. There was also a family in the car screaming. Chapter 43. This time Xiaoyi was well prepared. He immediately took off the combat index measuring device, took out the threaded mask from his pocket and put it on. I also tested Iron Man's combat power by the way, 1023, Iron Overlord is far behind, which should be due to insufficient energy. But no matter which one can treat themselves like food. However, facing a powerful enemy, Xiaoyi felt like her blood was burning. Iron Overlord threw the car towards Iron Man, who quickly caught it. Just as he was about to take the opportunity to launch an attack, Xiaoyi took the opportunity to rush forward and punch Iron Overlord in the chest. There was a thud as Xiaoyi's fist was blocked by Iron Overlord's arm. The unprotected fist fell on the Iron Overlord's steel arm. The fist that could have bent the steel did not achieve any success. The Iron Overlord's steel arm was unscathed. On the contrary, it was Xiaoyi's fist that felt as if the bones were about to burst. Iron Overlord pointed his machine gun at Xiaoyi. Xiaoyi was about to dodge when she saw a golden and red figure crashing straight into the Iron Overlord's side. The Iron Overlord staggered and almost fell to the ground, and he was suddenly very angry. You damn bastards, come over and die. As he spoke, he raised both of his robotic arms, one aimed at Xiaoyi and the other at Iron Man, and decisively pressed the trigger. The moment, bullets came like a storm. Luckily for Iron Man, his steel suit is bulletproof. But Xiaoyi was in trouble. The Iron Overlord's machine gun had a large caliber and was a heavy machine gun. Even though it had a small amount of bullets, Xiaoyi could still withstand it without getting hurt. But he took too many bullets. It will still be life-threatening. He jumped up and down the road like a monkey, dodging several rounds of bullets before jumping into the back of a jeep. The barrage was like a downpour, and in an instant, the jeep's follow-up fire turned into a hornet's nest. Xiaoyi even felt like a few bullets penetrated the jeep and hit him. Fortunately, the jeep took off the force and did not break through his physical defense. Hey boy, should I call you Xiaoyi or Yi Xiaoxia? Although I didn't expect you to be an ordinary person, I still suggest you stay away from here. You can't beat this guy. Tony wore a steel suit. He suspended in the sky above Xiaoyi and spoke. As soon as Tony finished speaking, Iron Overlord hit him with a missile and exploded. Tony took evasive action in time and was not harmed. But when the smoke from the explosion dissipated, Iron Overlord appeared out of thin air and punched Iron Man in the face. Iron Man dodged nimbly and hit Iron Overlord with a backhand pulse, but only a black spot was produced. Staney and Iron Overlord laughed loudly, punched him on the body and knocked him to the ground. He landed to Xiaoyi and was embedded in the asphalt road. 35XS. Cursed. Hey Donnie, it looks like you can't beat this guy. Xiaoyi mocked mercilessly. It was just an accident. Tony said harshly as he got up from the ground. Also, don't you understand English? My name is Tony. 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 Not Donnie. Okay Donnie, I got it Donnie. Xiaoyi nodded, and then said seriously in Tony's frantic voice, help me control that big guy and don't let him move. I have a trick that may be useful. Tony was silent for a moment. It had better be useful. After saying that, he rushed towards the Iron Overlord, who was still spraying bullets, and started fighting with the Iron Overlord with his more flexible movements. Xiaoyi took a deep breath, stepped out of the back of the jeep where the prototype could no longer be seen clearly, put into a posture, and all the energy in her body began to concentrate on her hands. The hands placed on the waist in the shape of lotus began to glow. His fighting power was 3 times that of the Eos battle with Dr. Lizard, and the intensity of his chi was incomparable. At this time, the Qigong bomb in his hand was as bright as an incandescent lamp. Tony and Staney were attracted by the light, and both noticed Xiaoyi's movements. Tony tried his best to pester Iron Overlord, but Iron Overlord also became violent. Withstanding Tony's punch on his head, he fired a missile towards Xiaoyi. But Xiaoyi didn't dodge and pushed towards the Iron Overlord with both hands. The Qigong bomb dragged its long tail and flew towards Iron Overlord, detonating the missile launched by Iron Overlord. It seemed that there was no weakening, and it passed through the impact of the explosion and hit Iron Overlord. Boom. With a loud noise, Iron Overlord's entire body was engulfed in the flames of the Qigong bomb explosion. Tony had no time to dodge, and the impact of the explosion even pushed Tony somersaulting several times in midair before he stabilized. Cool. What kind of trick are you doing? You can actually send out pulse waves without any hardware equipment. Tony shouted towards Xiaoyi from a distance. This is Qi, you ignorant idiot. Xiaoyi responded weakly, staring at the smoke and dust produced by the explosion. He has experimented and used turtle-style Qigong with all his strength, and his combat effectiveness can soar to over 1,000 points. It stands to reason that even if the Iron Overlord has a combat power of more than 1,200, it will still be destroyed if it is focused from the front, or at least it will be severely damaged. But inexplicably, Xiaoyi felt that the crisis was not over yet. You are the first person to call me stupid, I. Da. Before Tony could finish his words, a burst of fire suddenly lit up in the smoke, and a series of bullets shot out, shooting into the summer night. Xiaoyi launched a full blow, but was losing strength and could only barely protect her head with her arms. The rain of bullets broke through Xiaoyi's physical defense within a second or two, spraying bloody flowers on Xiaoyi's body. The smoke dissipated, and Iron Overlord's embarrassed figure gradually became clear. One arm disappeared, leaving only half of the upper arm with electric sparks coming out. It seemed that this arm was used to block Xiaoyi's turtle-style Qigong. Many other places were damaged in the explosion, but most of the shells were not penetrated. At this time, its other arm was raised high and maintaining the shooting action, and the machine gun muzzle on the arm was still spraying bullets towards Xiaoyi. Damn it. Tony controlled the steel suit and rushed forward, knocked the Iron Overlord's arm out of the way, reached out and grabbed the machine gun muzzle on its arm, and condensed it into a twist. It took a little too long, and he was knocked away by Iron Overlord's punch. A piece of armor on his shoulder was smashed open, the precision parts inside were damaged, and the entire arm drooped and lost control. Are you okay? The direction Tony flew out was exactly the direction of Xiaoyi. He rolled over in midair, stopped suddenly, and asked Xiaoyi. Are you blind? How could I be okay? Xiaoyi raised his head and glanced at Tony, then his words became weaker and weaker, and finally he raised his head and fell down. His blood was gurgling. Chapter 44 Awakening. Xiaoyi felt her consciousness gradually blur, and she vaguely saw Iron Man rising into the sky, followed closely by Iron Overlord. Don't forget me here. The last thought flashed through his mind before he gradually lost consciousness. I don't know how long it took, but he woke up at home and found that he had learned to transform into a Super Saiyan God, and also learned the ultimate intention Kung Fu. A few days later, Thanos' army came and was defeated by his turtle-style Qigong. Thanos came up to provoke him, but he punched him to the ground. Thanos refused to accept the decision, and was beaten 99 times by Xiaoyi. Finally, he knelt down and was convinced and called Daddy. After defeating Thanos, a door opened in midair, and beyond the door was his original world. He held Miss Polaris in his left hand and Miss Shockwave in his right hand, followed by the Pink Witch and the Widow Sister, and walked into the door with a big smile on his face. The whole book is finished. His vision was pitch black, with only these 3 characters remaining. What's going on? I still want to go back to my original world and show off. Why is it gone? Xiaoyi became anxious and tried hard, and then he woke up. When he opened his eyes, he saw a white ceiling. He looked around blankly and found that he was in a luxurious ward, wrapped up like a mummy, with an intravenous drip hanging on his arm. What's going on? Why did I end up in the hospital? Xiaoyi tried hard to remember, and then saw the program broadcast on the TV in front of her. On the TV, Tony was saying with embarrassment, "Obviously, I am not made to be a superhero. I have many character flaws and I have made many mistakes, most of which you also know." Colonel Rhodes, who was to him, quickly came over and said something to Tony. Tony picked up the inscription card at hand. Actually, the truth is. He was silent for a while, then raised his eyelids and said, "I am Iron Man." The reporters present were excited. What happened? Is the plot of Iron Man 1 over? I also wanted to go and worship the scene where Tony Stark said, "I am Iron Man," and started the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe. Why did it end? Only then did Xiaoyi recall that she seemed to have almost been beaten into pieces during the battle with the Iron Overlord and was rescued to the hospital. Well, if this can be exchanged for fairy beans, why bother? A bean is also a hero, and he can be called an invincible little strong man. Xiaoyi glanced at the system subconsciously, wanting to see the coveted fairy beans again, and then saw a system prompt, "Congratulations on defeating the enemy and gaining 1273 redemption points." Unexpectedly, as soon as I started practicing Gue Pai Qigong, I would still have redemption points in my account. Xiaoyi felt a little more at ease after seeing the system prompts. 35 XS. Then again, how many days have I been lying in bed? Xiaoyi turned around and looked around, and found her mobile phone on the bedside table. Just as I was about to open it to check the time, the door to the ward opened. "Thank God, you finally woke up. This is my private hospital, my private ward. I don't like a man lying in it, even if he is underage." Hearing this voice, Xiaoyi knew it without raising his head. Who is coming? There will definitely be no one else but Tony, the venomous tongue. You should go see a dentist, Donnie. Your mouth really stinks. Xiaoyi counterattacked without hesitation, pressing the switch on her phone without stopping. Well, a whole week has passed since the battle with Iron Overlord, and it seems that the injury was really serious this time. Then the moment, he was hugged by a figure that rushed towards him. To be honest, his first reaction was to kick the figure out because he thought it was Tony Stark and he didn't like being hugged by men. But he immediately realized that it was not Tony who was holding him, but Lorna. "I thought you were going to die." Lorna cried in Xiaoyi's ear. "Don't worry, I'll be fine. I'm a superhero." Xiaoyi patted Lorna's back and said softly, "Your little girlfriend is great. She has been taking care of you these days. I don't know how a guy with such a bad behavior like you deceived someone." Tony suddenly walked up to them and praised him. Lorna immediately fled from his arms like a frightened little rabbit. Don't you think this kind of scene should be avoided? Seeing this, Xiaoyi shouted angrily at Tony. "Unless you stop calling me Donnie." Tony said with a serious face. "Really?" Xiaoyi showed a meaningful smile and made 2 operations on her phone. "Okay, I apologize, I'm sorry Xiaoyi. Okay, I apologize, I'm sorry Xiaoyi. Okay, I apologize, I'm sorry Xiaoyi." The recording of Tony being forced to apologize was played repeatedly by Xiaoyi. "I like this sentence, maybe I can use it as a cell phone ringtone." Xiaoyi said with a smirk. "You're such a bad guy. Okay, I admit defeat and wish you a good day. I'll come back in 2 hours." Tony could only raise his hands in surrender and exit the room. The moment after he walked out of the room, he put his head back and added, "Don't worry about making things messy or dirty. I understand, young people are always full of passion. From now on, this room will belong to you. You're a bastard, Donnie." Xiaoyi's angry voice came from behind him. Tony was in a good mood after leaving the summer night ward. He always gets frustrated here on Xiaoyi, and he doesn't know why. This time I finally got the upper hand and got my revenge. "Boss, why don't you delete that recording? You should be able to do it." After walking out of the room, his bodyguard Happy asked curiously. "Don't ask what you shouldn't ask, Happy. That's what I paid for." Tony raised his eyebrows at Happy. "Contracts are always sacred, understand?" In the room, Xiaoyi was having a headache. Once Tony left, Lorna returned to her true self. Although there were still tears in the corners of her eyes, at this moment she was staring at Xiaoyi like a howling she-wolf, with a cold tone. "Why don't you let me go with you? You should know that I can control metal, so I can definitely help. It's yours. I'm a mutant, I'm capable of fighting, I'm not a burden to you." Xiaoyi was helpless. Maybe Lorna could indeed help him, but in fact Lorna's combat power was only in her early 100s, and Xiaoyi really didn't trust Lorna to fight. "You can't say this openly." He opened his mouth, his face full of embarrassment. Seeing Xiaoyi's expression, Lorna became even more unhappy. "Just because my combat power is only 106 and yours is 554, do you look down on me? At least I am much stronger than ordinary people. And don't you have, is there a way to make people stronger? You can teach me." Xiaoyi was shocked when he heard this. "My combat power is 554. Also, how do you know about combat power?" Chapter 45 On the Verge of Death. Tony Stark took away your strange pair of monocular glasses and used them to detect the problem. Lorna showed a lot of dissatisfaction on her face. "How many things are you hiding from me?" This isn't something I'm hiding from you, right? It's just a pair of glasses, and it's not something important." Xiaoyi could only explain it bravely, scolding Tony for taking the combat index measuring instrument without authorization. It was a bloody mess. "But how can I have more than 500 combat power? Wasn't it originally only more than 300? This doubt only lasted for a moment, and Xiaoyi guessed why. "Who is he?" "Scion." Speaking of scions, we have to mention one of this race's incredible skills, resurrecting from near death to greatly increase combat effectiveness. As for why this effect was not triggered before, it may be because the several injuries before this time did not reach the level of near death. "I have decided that I will also be a superhero in the future," Lorna suddenly said seriously. "But..." Xiaoyi couldn't help but want to stop it, but in the end he hesitated. Lorna is not the homely type of wife and mother, she is more independent and maverick. Now that she seemed to have made up her mind, Xiaoyi felt that forcibly stopping her would only bring the relationship between the two to a freezing point. "Okay. There is only one principle, you must listen to me when performing tasks," Xiaoyi said. "As soon as my injury heals, I will start training you. Be prepared to endure hardship. I can only protect Lorna with all my strength when encountering danger in the future. 35xs. No problem." Lorna nodded excitedly, causing Xiaoyi to look at her in surprise. Unexpectedly, Lorna still had a violent element in her bones and was so excited. For 2 hours, Lorna sat beside Xiaoyi's bed and held his hand. The two seemed to have endless love words. "Hey, maybe I should come later. Flirting should be moderate. I thought you were over, but I didn't expect you haven't started yet." Tony's voice came from the door again, and there was a black man behind him. "Send to the Mediterranean, Coulson." Xiaoyi patted the back of Lorna's hand. Lorna rolled her eyes at Xiaoyi and left the room obediently. "You took away my combat index measuring instrument." Xiaoyi pretended to be angry and asked Tony. "You mean this interesting little toy?" Tony took out Xiaoyi's combat index measuring device from his pocket and shook it. "I have to say that the technology inside is not difficult, but the algorithm is very interesting. You don't mind if I use it on my steel suit, right?" "Do I mind if it's useful?" Xiaoyi was speechless. "It's useless, I'm just informing you." Tony sat on a chair nearby, put the combat index measuring device aside, and mocked, "I didn't expect you to be so weak, and your combat power is only half of mine." Xiaoyi immediately understood that he must have tested his combat effectiveness in the steel suit. "That's the combat power of your steel suit, not you." Xiaoyi sneered. "Your combat power must only be in single digits, I can hit you 100 times. Hardware is part of my fight, man." "You're jealous of me," Tony retorted with a shrug. Please leave the quarrel for later, please let me get to work now." Coulson interrupted the exchange between Xiaoyi and Tony, and then turned to look at Tony. "Would you mind stepping aside for a moment, Mr. Iron Man?" "Of course." Our Mr. Agent wants to talk to you, so pay attention to your attitude." Tony nodded and teased Xiaoyi again, his words not concealing his contempt for the agent. In the blink of an eye, Coulson and Xiaoyi were the only two people left in the ward. Coulson sat in front of Xiaoyi's hospital bed and immediately took out a device and put it on the bedside table. He pressed a button on it and the device lit up. "What is this?" Xiaoyi asked curiously. "Shielding device, to end eavesdropping." Coulson answered, then took out his tablet and lowered his head to operate it. "Mr. Xiaoyi, Director Fury has some questions to ask you. Before asking you, I must tell you that your identity cannot be hidden by just wearing a mask." Xiaoyi understood what Coulson was talking about. He was referring to the fact that when he fought against Iron Overlord, he only wore a mask. "Haven't I already been exposed? It shouldn't matter, right?" Xiaoyi defended with some embarrassment. "But to ordinary people, you have not been exposed. Please don't cause us so much trouble like that guy who announced his identity in public." Coulson handed the tablet to Xiaoyi. Xiaoyi heard it funny. No wonder Coulson was so rude to Tony when he was monitoring him in the original plot of Iron Man 2, with such a resentful tone. A bald head popped up on the tablet. It was Nick Fury. "Nice to see you again, Mr. Xiaoyi." Fury greeted, but there was no enthusiasm at all from his cold expression. "I'm very happy too. I almost died." Xiaoyi didn't care. After all, the one-eyed man just likes to be mysterious. "I have many questions to ask you, but some questions are better asked in person," Fury said. "Now there is only one question about you, I hope you can explain it." Before Xiaoyi could say anything, Fury started to ask, "Where did you get those glasses?" "From the records, you have never had contact with any scientists except Tony Stark. We asked Tony Tucker, he doesn't know anything about this. You don't have the ability to develop this kind of equipment, and there is no relevant material in your purchase record. I brought it over when I traveled through time, our technology over there." Xiaoyi said without changing his expression. "Then the training room in your home that can control gravity is also the same?" Fury asked. "You broke into my home." Xiaoyi was stunned, and then became angry. "Your girlfriend brought us in. She didn't know the function of the machine and thought it could help you recover." Fury gave a rare explanation. Xiaoyi was stunned for a moment, then smiled bitterly. "I didn't expect that something like this would happen without telling Lorna. That's what I brought with me when I traveled through time, but it's just part of the core. I made the outer shell myself." Xiaoyi continued to talk nonsense. Fury took a deep look at Xiaoyi when he heard this. "Okay, I believe you, everyone has secrets. But I hope you will not threaten the security of the Earth." Obviously, he didn't believe Xiaoyi's words. "Of course, I'm a real human being," Xiaoyi answered without hesitation. "The information you provided us last time has been initially confirmed." Fury said again. "I will see you again." After saying that, the screen went black. Finally discovered Hydra. The plot should change, right? Xiaoyi was a little dazed. Chapter 46 Palladium Poisoning. "Your director is so rude." Xiaoyi handed the tablet back to Coulson and complained with a curled lip. Coulson wisely didn't answer. "What did you agree to do about sending an agent to be my apprentice?" Xiaoyi asked again. "SHIELD is rectifying its internal affairs and can't spare any manpower," Coulson said while putting away the signal-blocking device and tablet computer. "But you are still very important to us. When you recover, an excellent agent will be looking for you." "Which one?" "Congratulations, congratulations, 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 congratulations." Just as Xiaoyi was about to ask who was so lucky, the festive singing on the phone rang again. I picked up the phone and looked at it, but I didn't recognize the number. He was always unwary and did not shy away from Coulson. He directly picked up. "Hey, who is it?" "I'm Brandon." "God, I finally got through to you." A middle-aged man's voice came from the other end of the phone, and he was very emotional. "Who is Brandon?" Xiaoyi recalled it and finally found this name from the corner of her memory. "Chairman of the Umbrella Company." What was he calling for? "I have something wrong. My phone keeps turning off." "What's the matter?" Xiaoyi said. "We found the staircase of the sun." "Oh my God, you can't imagine it, it's so beautiful. This must be a masterpiece given to me by God." Brandon shouted like a madman. 35XS. Xiaoyi was so shocked that she couldn't speak. This is the Marvel world. It's enough to have an umbrella company, but there's also the progenitor virus. Ahem, congratulations. Xiaoyi congratulated dryly. He felt that he seemed to be seeking death. You must come and take a look when you have time. Our process is very fast and it has almost unlimited possibilities. You will fall in love with this virus. Brandon suggested on the other end of the phone. I will go. I have something else to do, so I won't talk to you for now. Xiaoyi said quickly. Okay, work is important. I will call you again. You are the benefactor of our company. Brandon said sincerely. No, I just mentioned it casually, then goodbye. Xiaoyi hurriedly hung up the phone. Raising his head, Coulson looked at him expressionlessly. Stairway to the Sun. Virus. Tell me you didn't cause any trouble. It's not that much of a trouble, it's just the kind that could destroy humanity if you're not careful. Xiaoyi scratched his head in embarrassment. That is a virus that can turn people into monsters that only know how to eat. It can be spread through bites. If you are not careful, the number of infected people will increase exponentially. I suggest you pay more attention to that umbrella company. Coulson's face twitched when he heard this. I think you need to provide more detailed information. It took Xiaoyi another 3 days to recover. Seriously injured and on the verge of death, with dozens of bullet holes in her body and 7 bullets removed from her body, the doctor even thought that Xiaoyi was hopeless and that even if she was rescued, she would still be disabled. But what I didn't expect was that in just 10 days, Xiaoyi jumped out of bed as if he was not injured. The doctor was amazed by Xiaoyi's incredible resilience. If Xiaoyi wasn't a friend of his boss Tony, he would have studied it carefully. Now he has just removed a piece of gauze on his chest. A bullet penetrated there and exited from the back. The wound was less than 1 centimeter away from the heart and injured 1/3 of his lungs. It was the most seriously injured place. Now there is only a scar the size of a bottle cap, and the recovery is almost as if he had not been injured. It can only be said that the Scion's physique is indeed abnormal. Lorna was helping him pack his things and getting ready to go home, and Xiaoyi decided to go say hello to Tony. He only found out later that the hospital was actually at Tony's house. When Xiaoyi found Tony at the beach house, he was building a new steel suit in the basement. Tony had told him during a ES visit that this was a box-type suit that looked like a briefcase when not in use and was very easy to carry. Xiaoyi did not have permission to enter Tony's basement, so he knocked on the door for a long time before Tony noticed him. I remembered, you were discharged from the hospital today. Tony shouted as soon as Xiaoyi entered the door. I really envy your body. It only took more than 10 days to recover from such a serious injury. I envy you even more. Your superpowers are great. Xiaoyi said with a smile. Tony was stunned for a moment. How do I have any superpowers? Rich. Xiaoyi teased. Then my superpower is definitely the strongest. But you don't have to be envious. You are the largest shareholder of Stark Industries besides me. You still have tens of billions of assets. Tony was happy and picked up a cup of green oil to him. After taking a sip of the drink, his face twitched. It was obviously quite unpleasant to drink. Xiaoyi frowned. Palladium poisoning. I almost forgot about it. Tony put down the drink and happened to see Xiaoyi's expression. He raised his eyebrows and raised his glass to Xiaoyi, the latest nutritional drink, very healthy. Do you want some? I guess there's something wrong with your health, Donnie. Xiaoyi said. In my eyes, the nutritional drink you mentioned is medicine. Is it caused by the light bulb on your chest? Tony was stunned for a moment, then put down his drink again. You're overthinking, I'm fine. Xiaoyi looked at Tony in silence. He was torn about whether to tell Tony about the new element now. Palladium poisoning does threaten Tony's life, but it is undeniable that only by truly facing death can Tony learn responsibility, and truly grow into a real Iron Man. In Xiaoyi's heart, the Tony before the end of Iron Man 2 was just dealing with the legacy problems caused by the closed Stark industry, constantly making trouble for terrorists, and he was not the Tony Stark who sacrificed himself for the world. So forget it, sometimes good intentions may not necessarily bring good results. That's good, be sure to take care of yourself. Xiaoyi patted Tony's shoulder familiarly. Speaking of which, I have no idea about my current financial resources. If I want to buy a villa now, it would be better to be closer to New York City. The garage should be large enough. Do you have any good suggestions? Then you asked the right person. Tony raised his eyebrows and took a step back without leaving any trace, breaking away from Xiaoyi's hand. Jarvis, retrieve the information about Villa number 7. Yes, sir. Jarvis responded, and then a microscopic virtual model of the villa appeared on the table behind Tony. Castle Villa covers an area of 16 hectares, equivalent to 2 standard football fields. It is located at 42 Nutshell Street and only takes 35 minutes to drive to New York City. The most eye-catching thing is its underground garage, which has as many as parking spaces. The parking space is enough to hold a small car show. More importantly, its master bedroom has a large bed of square meters, on which you can sleep as a cover girl for a whole year. Tony said with his unique sense of humor. Language promotion, Chapter 47. The Second Apprentice. Sounds good. How much will it cost? Xiaoyi said excitedly. Strawberry. Haha, the original price was $120 million. I'll give you a fraction of that. $20 million is enough. Tony laughed. Xiaoyi's eyes widened in surprise. Is your fraction like this? This is too cheap. Wait. Xiaoyi looked at Tony in surprise. Is this villa yours? Of course. Tony smiled. To be honest, I can't even count how many villas I have, but at least I still remember the high-quality villas within the 10th. By the way, there are more than a dozen cars in the garage of that villa, so I'll give them to you. Anyway, there are not many limited editions. Poverty limited my imagination. Okay, but there's no need for a discount, just the original price. Xiaoyi said helplessly. You can't afford it now at full price, man, Tony scoffed. You haven't received your first share dividend yet. Do you plan to sell some of your shares? I'll be happy to buy them. Xiaoyi suddenly felt dizzy. I don't want this villa, but this villa is really what I want. Then let me borrow it from you. He could only succumb to the ugly face of capitalism. No problem, I will calculate the interest for you. How about 30% interest per year? Tony said with a smirk. Ah. Are you no longer polite? Xia Yiming pressed. That's a bad habit of you Orientals. I prefer to be simple and direct. Tony shrugged. I will call you every day to collect debts. I have never been a creditor, so it must be interesting. Don't worry, I won't pay you back. Xiaoyi shook his head decisively. I just owe it. Pay back the money? Are you kidding? That's $120 million. Tony Stark doesn't lack this. That won't work. Jarvis, help me set up an alarm clock to remind me to collect debt every day when I'm in a bad mood. Tony ordered his smart butler. You are really mean, Donnie. Xiaoyi said helplessly. Please don't make harassing phone calls to me. I'm not the cover girl of a fashion magazine. Unless you forget Donnie's damn name, call me Tony. Okay Donnie, got it Donnie. After exchanging daily arguments with Iron Man, Xiaoyi returned to the ward. Lorna had packed her things and was ready to go. Xiaoyi told Lorna about the new villa, and then the three of them chatted and laughed and embarked on their way home, with a happy guy who temporarily acted as their driver. When they said goodbye to Happy and opened the door together and walked into the living room, a beautiful blonde wearing only a bathrobe came down from upstairs. Lorna immediately turned her head and stared at Xiaoyi. Xiaoyi also looked confused. Don't look at me, I don't know what's going on. I don't know her. That's what he said, but why did Xiaoyi look at the blonde beauty's face and find it familiar? It must be a character that has appeared in Marvel movies, maybe from S.H.I.E.L.D. Welcome home, Master. The blonde beauty walked up to Xiaoyi very naturally, smiled and extended her hand. Introduce yourself, Maria Hill, Level 9 Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. From today on, I will be your apprentice. Ah. Oh. Xiaoyi stretched out her hand to shake Hill's hand in a panic. Unexpectedly, Fury actually sent Hill, one of the two beauties of S.H.I.E.L.D., here. Aren't you afraid that the meat bun will beat the dog and never come back? Why are you at my house? How did you get in? Lorna asked in a bad tone from the side. Seeing Brother Zhu's appearance on Xia, she was wary of the sudden appearance of a woman. I will live here in the future, so I have assigned the key in advance. You should know why I want to live with you, right? Hill said at the end, looking at Xia and asked. Xia suddenly recalled that this cheap apprentice was not only here to learn Qigong, but also to observe and evaluate him. Just like the widowed sister was working as Tony's personal assistant at that time, she was closely observing him almost every step of the way. I know. Xia nodded subconsciously and replied, and then a pair of cold eyes stared at him the moment. Lorna's eyes were blazing, and there was even green energy overflowing from her body, but the smile on her face was so refreshing, really. Why didn't I know? Tell me. Lorna is angry. Xia immediately followed her heart and decisively betrayed S.H.I.E.L.D.'s plan to form the Avengers, and completely sold out the cause and effect of the matter. Hill was calm, as if he didn't hear anything from the side. Lorna finally understood the reason for Hill's appearance and knew that the apprentice sent by S.H.I.E.L.D. was not a honey trap but a monitor, and she finally felt relieved. But this does not mean that her feelings towards Hill have changed. Instead, she has become more hostile to Hill. I am your master's wife, you have to listen to me. Lorna shouted to Hill childishly. Now, go get dressed immediately. Don't run around the house naked. Okay. Hill nodded with a smile, turned around and went upstairs to get dressed. Although Hill obeyed Lorna's orders, her womanly sixth sense told her that she was being slighted. She turned around and looked at Xia with tears in her eyes, and Xia suddenly felt dizzy. What should I do? I have never dealt with this situation before. Who will help me? Urgent, waiting online. Congratulations, 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 congratulations. As if God heard Xiaoye's call, his cell phone rang at this moment. I picked up the phone and saw it was Little Spider. I love you, Little Spider. He immediately put on a serious look and answered the phone. Hello, what's the matter? Master. I finally got through to you. Master, you must not have imagined how talented I am. I learned your trick with the luminous ball. I also tested the luminous ball, and it turned out to be pure energy. It's hard to imagine that this kind of pure energy can be generated out of thin air by the body. I want to dissect myself to see how it is generated. It's strange. I can clearly feel it, but no matter how it works in the body, even the instruments can't measure it. The little spider started to talk again, but only this time, his talk sounded so kind. Is it so serious? Okay, I'll be there soon. Xia said seriously, as if the situation was serious. What's serious? Is there something wrong with me? Is it obsessed? The little spider on the other end of the phone asked in horror. Interestingly, the 4 words obsessed are said in Chinese, which is very standard. Xia ignored him and hung up the phone with a snap. Sorry Lorna, I have to go out right away. Don't worry, there are no enemies this time. There is something wrong with my first apprentice, Little Spider, in his training. Xia said to Lorna with a straight face. Although Lorna felt something was wrong, since Xia said so, she still nodded. Okay, be careful on the road. Chapter 48 Genius Little Spider. Is there any problem with Little Spider's training? It's so problematic. Not long after I learned the Langya Feng Feng Fist, it was more powerful than Xia, and now I have learned the turtle-style Qigong on my own. You know, he only watched Xia perform it once when he and Xia fought against Dr. Lizard. If what Little Spider said was true, then he might be a one-of-a-kind martial arts prodigy. It doesn't make sense. Isn't Marvel a world where all kinds of energy and black technologies are rampant? It obviously has nothing to do with martial arts, so why is there such a genius? And Spider-Man is also a white man. Which serious martial arts movie do you watch that has a white man in it? The style of painting is wrong. It happened that Happy was still downstairs, so Xia sat on it directly and asked Happy to take him to the little spider's house. Spider-Man's home is in Queens. Compared to the chaos of Hell's Kitchen, it looks calm and peaceful. Queens is where New York's immigrants gather, and you can see immigrants from almost every country here. This is also the most beautiful place in New York. It looks like a garden. It was the first time I came to Queens at dawn on a summer night, and I was very impressed by the surrounding scenery. There are almost no two identical buildings on both sides. The only thing that is the same is that they are both artistic. Graffiti and peeling walls, pedestrians walking leisurely on the street, park-like greenery. No wonder Spidey likes to do community service here. Strawberry. After finding the address provided by Little Spider, Xiaoyi said goodbye to Happy and pressed the doorbell of Little Spider's house. The person who opened the door was a kind-faced old woman, who looked surprised when she saw Xiaoyi. If nothing else, this should be Aunt May, the only relative of Little Spider. "Hello, I'm looking for Peter Parker, I'm his friend," Xiaoyi said with a smile. "Oh, welcome. Come in and sit down." Aunt May suddenly showed a happy expression. She took Xiaoyi and sat down in the living room, serving a lot of snacks and cookies she baked by herself, with unreasonable enthusiasm. It wasn't until Xiaoyi reminded him that he recovered from the excitement of, "My Parker finally has a friend," and went upstairs to call Little Spider. When the Little Spider thumped downstairs, Xiaoyi was holding a cup of coffee and eating cookies, and Aunt May was chattering enthusiastically to her. "Parker, look, your friend is here," Aunt May shouted at the Little Spider. Xiaoyi glanced at Parker and felt a little funny. "But I'm a little confused, Parker should still have friends now. Isn't Green Goblin Harry Osborn Parker's friend? They even had a fight." The Little Spider showed an embarrassed expression and without saying a word, he hurriedly pulled Xiaoyi and ran back to the room. "Strawberry. Don't hold my hand, Parker," Xiaoyi exclaimed. "I don't like men." "Sorry." Little Spider quickly let go of his hand and closed the door. "I'm just a little anxious. Aunt May is a bit too nagging. I'm afraid you'll be angry." "What's there to be angry about? She's a nice person and very interesting," Xiaoyi said while looking around Little Spider's room. As a superhero, Spider-Man's room is indeed different from ordinary people's. The other furnishings were very ordinary, but the electronic components and tools everywhere, plus a few devices that I didn't know what they were used for, made the room look messy and crowded. "Your place is too small, Parker," Xiaoyi said. "I just bought a villa. Do you want to live there? I will give you a large separate room and an independent laboratory." The Little Spider was stunned when he heard this. Master, it's nice here. Besides, Aunt May still needs me to take care of her." Xiaoyi seemed to see some kind of stubbornness in Little Spider's eyes. He recalled that in the original work, Spider-Man had a very good relationship with the two richest men, Harry Osborn and Tony Stark, but neither of them used their money to make themselves better off. They still made money by selling selfies. In the Marvel world, the kindest superhero is none other than Spider-Man. Even Captain America, who is extremely dedicated and selfless, has to be inferior in the quality of kindness. Thinking of this, Xiaoyi patted Little Spider on the shoulder. "Don't be polite to me, you are my apprentice." In China, the relationship between master and apprentice is second only to the relationship between father and son. As for Aunt May, I can hire her to help me take care of the villa. The Little Spider seemed to be touched by Xiaoyi's sincere gaze. He was silent for a while and nodded. "Okay, I'll think about it. If Aunt May is willing, I might go." "That's right." Xiaoyi smiled. "Tell me, you said you learned my turtle-style qigong." When this question was mentioned, Little Spider suddenly became excited. "Yes, master, when I was practicing Langya Feng Feng fist, I found that part of the qi was attached to the fist when I punched. Then I thought of the one you used to use. When I hit the glowing ball, I guessed that I had to gather a lot of energy to hit it out. The experiment proved that my guess was right. This is simply amazing. I never thought that there is such a huge amount of energy in the human body. No need to explain yet, just use it and let me see." Xiaoyi waved her hand to interrupt the Little Spider. "Okay, master, you watch." I saw the Little Spider imitating his movements and assuming a turtle-style qigong posture, and then a faint light began to shine between his palms, and a translucent qigong bomb quickly took shape. The Little Spider didn't push it out, but let it stop in his hand as if holding something, and stretched it out for Xiaoyi to see. "That's it, did I practice wrongly and go crazy?" Little Spider asked anxiously. He still remembers Xiaoyi's heavy tone on the phone, and his heart trembles when he thinks of the characters in the novels he found on the internet who are obsessed with it. "No, you did a good job." Xiaoyi comforted the Little Spider absent-mindedly. Feeling the strength of this Qigong bomb at close range, Xiaoyi was a little puzzled. After all, the little spider has more than 500 combat power, so why is this air bomb only equivalent to the strength when he first learned this move? At most, it's a little stronger than the air bomb I used in my battle with Dr. Lizard. How much energy did you use when you used this move? Xiaoyi raised his head and asked. I'm not sure, but compared with the energy used when using Langya Wind Fist, it must be a lot more. Every time I make such an air bomb, my 2 arms will feel very tired. Little Spider described Road. 2 arms. Xiaoyi had an idea. Do you feel tired with only 2 arms? Well. Master, am I practicing correctly? Little Spider asked anxiously. I understand. Xiaoyi suddenly realized. You are practicing correctly, but you are not practicing turtle-style Qigong. If I guess correctly, you are practicing ordinary Qigong. Chapter 49 Martial Arts and Superheroes. According to Xiaoyi's understanding, the turtle-style Qigong in Dragon Ball is to mobilize the Qi in the body to the greatest extent through special postures. The power increases with the strength of one's own Qi. It is simple and crude but very easy to use. Ordinary air bombs are to quickly mobilize part of the air to shoot out. If the control of Qi is high enough, ordinary Qi bombs can also be called from the Qi of the whole body. The little spider obviously didn't have enough training, and he only had time to use the Qi in his arms in a hurry. But summer knights do. He has been honing the control of his energy for some time. Coupled with the pressure brought by the gravity chamber and the unique talent of the science, he has initially mastered the complete control of his energy. Little Spider's practice can be said to have brought unexpected joy to Xiaoyi, reminding him that the Qi bombs in the Dragon Balls are not just a kind of turtle Qigong. Maybe try Dong Dong Bo. Like the legendary 6 Meridians divine sword, it must be very handsome. Master, what's the problem? What about ordinary air bombs? Little Spider couldn't help but ask when he saw what Xiaoyi was thinking about. Xiaoyi came back to her senses and realized that she was distracted. He didn't answer the little spider's words, and let the focus of his thinking return to the little spider. I have to say that the little spider is indeed very strong, so strong that even if he lacks control over his energy, he can still condense energy bombs in his hands. This is different from the Dragon Ball world. The strength of the martial arts masters in Dragon Ball increases with the increase of Qi. Even if the talent is not high, decades of continuous use are enough for them to perfectly control their own Qi. Strawberry even Frisia, who was born with great strength, still has the ability to transform and suppress the huge energy. The little spider, on the other hand, first gained great strength and then learned Qi. Speaking of which, is little spider getting stronger again? It feels like if the combat power is only more than 500, there is still no way to forcibly condense the air bombs, right? Doubts arose in Xiaoyi's heart, and she immediately took out the combat index measuring device and took a test. Wow, what is this? So cool. Little Spider sighed when he saw the highly fantasy combat index measuring instrument. Xiaoyi still ignored him. He was surprised by the little spider's progress, combat power 703. In less than half a month, the little spider's combat power increased by more than 100. I originally thought that with more than combat power, I could fight the little spider, but I didn't expect that I was still distanced. You know, he has experienced a near-death resurrection and his combat power has skyrocketed. Maybe it's because the little spider's abilities haven't reached their peak yet, so they keep improving. You know, Spider-Man was just a community hero when he first appeared, but by the plot of Avengers 3, he was already able to compete with Thanos. Maybe he was just enhanced in the movie, but there must be a process to becoming stronger. Or maybe it's because the little spider has mastered Qi. Qi definitely has the effect of strengthening the body. In the beginning, the Dragon Ball warriors did improve their Qi by tempering their bodies, but in the later stages, they used more Qi to feed back their bodies. The little spider's body may be being tempered by Qi. If it's the former, it's okay to say that little spider is just an example. But if it is the latter, then almost all superheroes in Marvel can be strengthened by practicing Qi. If the method of cultivating Qi is obtained by the villains, there may be big trouble. Fortunately, Xiaoyi came to Little Spider first. The Qi cultivation method that will be handed over to Agent Hill in the future must be modified. Master, what's wrong with me? Just tell me directly, I can bear it. Little Spider asked with a trembling tone when he saw Xiaoyi was in a daze again. Xiaoyi came back to her senses and couldn't help but feel funny when she saw the sad look on the little spider's face. "Don't worry, you're fine, it's just that you haven't mastered your cultivation yet," Xiaoyi said. "Like I said, you are just using ordinary qi bombs, not the turtle-style qigong I used before. Ordinary air bombs." Little Spider looked confused. "Yes, ordinary air bombs," Xiaoyi explained with a smile. "The turtle-style qigong is to condense all the qi in the whole body into qi bombs and shoot them out. It is a unique skill. Ordinary qi bombs simply condense a small part of the qi and can be used as a regular attack method." "Wow, cool. Does this mean I can use this air bomb casually when I fight in the future?" Little Spider suddenly became excited. "No, not yet. As I said, your cultivation is not yet at home." Xiaoyi shook his head and poured cold water on the little spider. "You are using ordinary qi bombs in the same way as turtle-style qigong, but you only use the qi of 2 arms. This is why your 2 arms feel tired. In fact, whether it is turtle-style qigong or ordinary qi bombs, all the qi of the whole body is mobilized. You can't do this yet, so you are not yet at home in cultivation. In addition, there is no need for ordinary qi bombs to assume the posture of turtle school qigong. The advantage of ordinary qi bombs is that they can be easily condensed in any posture anytime, anywhere," Xiaoyi added. "Okay, then how should I practice? Although Langya Feng Feng is very powerful, I have already fought it hundreds of times and don't want to fight again." Little Spider asked with a bitter face. "How to practice? This is a problem." Xiaoyi frowned again. "The Earth natives of the Dragon Ball warrior should be training in the temple when they are at 600 or 700 combat power to prepare for Vegeta, who will attack in a year's time. Their control of Qi is already very high at this time. You can use Qi as eyes to see battles that are invisible to the naked eye. You can also use Qi as a radar with an ultra-wide range to detect enemies that appear suddenly. Their main task at this time is to hone their physical bodies." But the little spider is not continuing to hone his physical body, but to control his own Qi, at least to the extent that he can use it smoothly. Xiaoyi tried hard to recall the realm of Sun Wukong's Qi cultivation in Dragon Ball. First of all, the practice in the temple puts oneself in a state of nothing, and can become a humanoid self-propelled radar, which can see things through Qi. The concept of Qi also appeared at this time. There's definitely no way to teach this, after all, even he himself can't do it to that extent. Secondly, Kalinta, this is mainly for training speed and prediction, and it should also have the potential effect of training Qi. But if he were to hold up the jar like the cat fairy and let the little spider grab it, he would definitely not be able to hold on for a few minutes. All that's left is training in Kame Zenya. Turtle Senin's training is geared towards building strength and exercising the body at the same time, so as to promote the growth of Qi through the strength of the body. Turtle Immortal accepted 2 disciples, Klin and Sun Wukong. Whether it was carrying weights on the turtle shell or delivering milk, it was to train their bodies. But the little spider's body is already strong enough, so it's doubtful whether this is of any use to the little spider. What can we do about it? Xiaoyi hit her head and felt a headache. Chapter 50 Start Special Training. The little spider's problem now is to learn to flexibly control the Qi throughout his body, instead of using it instinctively like now. Thinking of this, Xiaoyi had a flash of inspiration. Yes, although there is no relevant training in the Dragon Ball world, Xiaoyi just encountered a similar problem some time ago. In order to learn to control the Qi throughout his body, he had to endure tens of thousands of bullets, and now he was able to use the turtle-style Qigong flexibly. So can Little Spider use his own method? Xiaoyi continued to think along this line of thought. Bullets will definitely not work. Although the Little Spider already had more than 500 combat power when he fought against Dr. Lizard, judging from the fact that he can be injured by bullets, the little spider's combat power is more reflected in strength, speed, spider sense, and the physical strength of the spider silk launcher itself is not very high. Speaking of which, with such great strength, the little spider's muscle density should be extremely high, but it can be easily penetrated by bullets. I don't know what the genetic mutation of the little spider is, it feels very unreasonable. The way to improve physical strength is very simple, just keep pushing your body to its limits. As long as there is enough potential, there is no fear that squeezing will damage the body. The little spider definitely has potential, so a training plan needs to be formulated. Going back to the training of controlling chi, Spider-Man cannot use real firearms to exercise his abilities, but maybe he can use rubber bullets or tennis ball launchers instead. Soon, Xiaoyi planned the training for little Spider, with a smile on her face. I think I know how to train you. You need a special training room, so you'd better stay at my place. Xiaoyi said. By the way, you have an additional junior sister, and she is a beauty. It took Xiaoyi 2 days to move from the original house to the big villa. The villa itself has basically everything, he just needs to move the gravity room there. Hill also picked a room to stay in, which made Lorna very dissatisfied. However, her dissatisfaction was of no use, because Xiaoyi also agreed with Hill living here. After all, Hill is not only Xiaoyi's apprentice, but also his current link with S.H.I.E.L.D. When necessary, he can apply for protection from S.H.I.E.L.D. through Hill. Lorna is his only weakness now, who knows what insidious means those inexplicable organizations in this world will use. As for Aunt May, no matter how Xiaoyi tried to persuade her, she still didn't want to live in the villa. The old house in Strawberry held too many memories for her, and she even wanted to grow old alone there. Aunt May didn't go, so naturally little Spider wouldn't go either. But for training, little Spider will report to Xiaoyi's villa early every morning just like clocking in for work. The plot of Iron Man 1 is over, and soon the battle between Green Fat and Abomination in New York will begin, followed closely by Iron Man 2's Iron Legion. Time was running out, but Xiaoyi's strength was still far from enough. In order to cope with the crises that would arise in the future, he decided to give up all actions and start special training in seclusion. Not only himself, he also made training plans for Lorna, Hill, and Spider-Man. 2/3 of the underground garage was transformed into a training room for 4 people. Considering each person's different situation, Xiaoyi could be said to have spent a lot of money and borrowed Tony $200 million for the renovation. Hill is just an ordinary person, but he has relatively good skills. His combat power is only 8 points, mostly due to firearms and skills. Her training is more about pushing past physical limits and tempering her body. His trajectory will be the same as that of the Dragon Ball warriors, from weak to strong, tempering the body to feel chi, feeding the body through chi to break through the limits of the human body, and then continuing to strengthen the body to make chi stronger and feeding back to the body again, forming a virtuous cycle. This is a step-by-step process. She will not encounter the problems of Xiaoyi and Little Spider, and the rough control of chi will come naturally. Her training room is quite simple and crude, various weights, various fitness equipment, and a gravity chamber commissioned from Tony Stark, with an upper limit of only 3 times gravity. Although Lorna has more than 100 combat strengths, her combat effectiveness mainly comes from her abilities, and her physical body is only at the level of an ordinary person. You know, in a duel between experts, what determines the outcome is not the area of expertise, but the shortcomings. Xiaoyi's plans for her were similar to Hill's, they were all focused on tempering her body. But you can't give up on training your abilities. Now, without losing control, Lorna's abilities are much worse than her peak state in the TV series. Xiaoyi also prepared a gravity chamber similar to Hill's for her, and put 2 tons of iron sand in it. She needs to control more iron sand under higher gravity to complete detailed shapes. It will be a good exercise in both the strength and control of her abilities. As for Little Spider, his physical strength is already very high, even surpassing Xiaoyi. But I don't know why, but the ability to resist being hit is relatively weak. Xiaoyi decided to train the Little Spider's abilities in a targeted manner. The easiest way was to beat him. Xiaoyi copied his microshooting training, but replaced the microshooting with a tennis ball launcher. These 6 tennis ball launchers have all been modified by Tony Stark. Not only have their rate of fire been increased several times, almost catching up with the continuous fire of an assault rifle, but they are also more powerful. What was launched was not a soft tennis ball, but an iron ball. According to the training progress of the Little Spider, there are 3 iron ball models of 200 grams, 500 grams, and 1 kilogram to choose from. The Little Spider cannot use the spider sense to dodge, and must try to control the air force to resist, while training the ability to resist hits. At the same time, it can also train him to control chi. Finally, there is Xiaoyi himself. His training plan is the same as before, which is to use the 10 times gravity chamber to train himself. With her physical body, Xiaoyi can now resist 5 times gravity without being greatly affected, but Xiaoyi still trains under twice gravity. Because he put on a weight-bearing suit, a turtle shell on his back, and a 100-kilogram lead ring on his body. These items alone were already 3 times his weight. Under twice the gravity, the weight of these things doubled, which was equivalent to carrying a load 6 times the body weight, more than half a ton. In this case, Xiaoyi could barely maintain normal activities. His goal is to put on the half-ton lead ring he specially prepared and move freely under 10 times the gravity in the shortest possible time. By that time, his fighting power will definitely be the same as Sun Wukong, who has just been trained by KO, reaching the level of 8,000 points. In this way, the 4 of them started hellish training in the summer night villa, squeezing their potential every day. Time flies, and another month has passed in the blink of an eye. Chapter 51 Outcomes of Training. This afternoon, Xiaoyi and others had just finished a day of training. Strawberry. After eating takeout for a month, Xiaoyi decided to cook something delicious today to improve her life, leaving the little spider behind. Americans eat sour and sweet food, so much so that they almost threw up on a summer night after eating it for a month. I said, "Leave this dish to me." In the kitchen, Lorna was fighting for the spatula in Xiaoyi's hand. I don't know what kind of style she has, but she had to stir-fry the last braised pork ribs. Lorna has made great progress this month, and her combat effectiveness has tripled to over 300. Because I have been exercising this month, my already beautiful figure has become even more beautiful. More importantly, she can also feel qi now. As a mutant, her qi situation is very special. The qi she feels is the source of energy for her mutant abilities. It's like there's a treasure trove inside her body, but she can only control part of it. Therefore, her qi is very huge, even bigger than Xiaoyi's qi. It's just like being locked. Even the combat index measuring device can only detect the part she can control. Mutants have innate control over their abilities, almost like instinct. This control can grow until all abilities are under control. With targeted training, Lorna could only control 100 kilograms of iron sand for fine modeling at the beginning, but now she can control 300 kilograms of iron sand. It can be said that she has made rapid progress. Lorna's physical fitness has also made great progress under the exercise in the gravity room. Although he has not yet reached the superhuman realm, he is still at the peak of ordinary human beings. Moreover, with Xiaoyi, Little Spider, and Hill as 3 sparring partners, Lorna's skills are also very good now. "Lorna, do you really know how to cook?" Hill happened to be passing by with coffee in hand. When he saw this scene, he raised his eyebrows and asked. "I don't know if it's because people of the same sex repel each other, but when these 2 beauties get together, you stab each other and I stab you, just like a palace drama." Hill has made the greatest progress in the past month. From less than 10 points of combat power at the beginning, it has now reached more than 50 points, which has increased more than 10 times. She has no superpowers, and all her progress is based on a steady increase in physical strength. Xiaoyi also didn't expect that Hill was also a genius. After her physical strength reached 20 points, not long after she started practicing qi, she easily broke through the physical limitations of ordinary people and made rapid progress. Xiaoyi still had reservations about Hill, but she just let Hill feel the presence of qi and did not teach further. You must know that Shield is almost another Hydra now. Up to now, Fury has only cleaned up some details, and he is still worried about being seen by Hydra and doing something extreme. If Hydra obtains the Qi cultivation method, it might cause some trouble. Anyway, Hill's strength, speed, physical strength, etc. are now far beyond the limits of ordinary people. He has acquired superpowers and is enough to compete. I'll keep the further training methods a secret for now. Of course I can cook. Unlike some old woman who only knows how to eat. Lorna rolled her eyes, then turned to look at Xiaoyi. When I lived in Clinton District, I was the one who cooked. Right. What can Xiaoyi say? Tell Hill that cooking for Lorna was a nightmare back then. His desire to survive will never allow him to do that. Of course, that experience was impressive. Xiaoyi replied seriously, and handed the spatula to Lorna knowingly. Anyway, the other dishes are enough, so it doesn't matter if one dish of braised pork ribs is missing. Hey, master. Is the last dish ready yet? I'm already hungry. The little spider stuck his head into the kitchen and shouted. I never knew Chinese food could smell so good. Watching the dishes on the table and waiting is a torture. The little spider is already very strong. The improvement in just 1 month is not as obvious as the 2 beauties, but it is still a rapid progress. His combat effectiveness jumped from early 700 to close to 900. It is expected that if the training continues, it will not be a problem for his combat effectiveness to exceed 4 digits. Compared with the improvement of combat effectiveness, Spider-Man's improvement is more reflected in other aspects, especially his ability to resist being hit. Now, even without using chi for defense, a 200-gram metal ball could no longer hurt him based on his physical strength alone. After experiments, it can be determined that the little spider is now completely immune to some small-caliber bullets. If Dr. Lizard is released now to fight the little spider, he will probably be tortured out of Xiang. Wait obediently. If you dare to eat secretly, I guarantee you won't see the sun tomorrow. Xia Yi threatened. He was not kidding. Now he could really easily torture the little spider with one hand. Among the four, the one who had made the most progress was Xia Yi himself. According to the development of the plot, I don't know when the Green Fat and Abomination will fight in New York. He might not be close enough to challenge the Green Fat Men with unlimited strength in a one-on-one fight, but it was still possible to defeat the Green Fat Men and kill the Abomination. In order to survive the battle between two monsters in the future battle and obtain redemption points, Xia Yi must at least be able to survive the aftermath of the two monsters' attacks. Under this ambitious goal, Xia Yi rarely worked hard, almost torturing himself in the same way as he treated his enemies, often leaving himself covered in bruises. The process is painful, but the result is beautiful. He can now wear a weight of nearly 1 ton and move freely under 5 times the gravity. His combat power increased 5 times to 2,500 points. Because he has no reference, he doesn't know how strong he is now. Maybe he can resist the Hulk. For the sake of his own life, he gave up this tempting idea. Abomination looks good. You can use it to test your strength. There won't be any problems. If there is a problem, there will be Hulk to it. 10 minutes later, Lorna served the last dish, braised pork ribs. It didn't look like braised meat, but looked like a freshly cut and bloody plate of bones, bright red. Why is it red? Xia Yi asked in surprise. Ketchup. Lorna said with a proud expression. I added ketchup. Well, at least it looks edible. Xia Yi didn't say anything more. The 4 of us gathered around the dining table to prepare for dinner. The little spider couldn't wait any longer, so he held the chopsticks in his hands early, like a dagger. Obviously he didn't know how to hold chopsticks. Hill sat there calmly waiting for the meal, exuding a capable temperament. Lorna picked up the chopsticks skillfully and bumped them on the table. She had been living with Xia Yi for a while and had already learned how to use this magical prop. Dinner is ready. Xia Yi announced. Chapter 52. The Green Fat Guy is here. As a homebody who was used to being self-sufficient in his ES life, Xia Yi's cooking skills are pretty good. The 4 of them ate happily, but no one ate Lorna's plate of blood-red braised pork ribs. Even Lorna didn't move her chopsticks. It seemed that she still knew herself. After the meal, Little Spider said goodbye and went home. Lorna turned on the TV stand and watched TV series on the sofa. Hill went back to the room, probably to report the progress of training to Fury, since there was nothing to lose and Xia Yi didn't bother to deal with it anyway. As for himself, he naturally ran to the sofa and stretched out with his arms around Lorna. Lorna liked to read about romance, but Xia Yi didn't like it very much, so she just picked up a newspaper and started browsing. This is a New York Times newspaper from 3 days ago. On page 2, a piece of news caught his attention. Unknown enemies attack Culver University in Virginia, but are repelled by the military. Let me go, the Hulk appears. Xia Yi, who was familiar with Marvel plots, immediately guessed the identity of this unknown enemy. In other words, it won't be long before the Hulk appears on the streets of New York and fights the Abomination. Thinking of this, Xia Yi immediately got up from the sofa, ran to her room avoiding Lorna, took out her mobile phone and called Tony. Hulk was too powerful, and there was a shadow of the military in the incident. He didn't want to let Lorna mix it in. Poor Mr. Xia Yi, are you going to pay me back? Tony teased as soon as he answered the phone. During this period, whenever he had something to do, he would call Xia Yi to collect debts, which made Xia Yi extremely annoyed. I said I would pay it back, Donnie, after your Stark Industries gives me the dividends. 35XS. Xia Yi responded with a dark look on his face. Since it's not about paying back the money, you'd better give me a good reason to interrupt my date. You see, Peibo is angry. Tony said in a nonchalant tone. I don't think Peibo was angry because of my phone call. Xiaoyi retorted before getting down to business. Can you get the military's movements? Especially General Ross. If there is a large-scale deployment of his troops in New York, I hope you can inform me. Oh, I'm very familiar with General Ross. He ordered 3 sonic weapons from me. But I'm not free now. Don't worry, I will tell the new assistant to pay attention to him, and my assistant will inform you then. Tony said. No time. Aren't you so idle every day? You stay in the basement all day studying your steel suit. Xiaoyi asked curiously. I'm on a plane, flying to Monaco. I'm going to race. I invited your guy, but you just like to stay in the boring gravity room. Tony replied frivolously. Monaco racing, it's time for Death Whip to appear. Is this why Iron Man didn't show up when Hulk and Abomination crazily destroyed New York? You know, I have recently learned to fly, and the flying speed is much faster than the F-1 racing car. Doesn't your steel suit fly faster than the F-22 fighter plane? I really don't understand why you are still obsessed with racing. Xiaoyi said. Speaking of which, aren't you on the plane? Why can you make a phone call? Private jet, you ignorant poor guy. 35XS. If anyone on the crew doesn't let me use my mobile phone, I will definitely fire him. Tony mocked mercilessly. This reminds me of Wang Xizong's era. Xiaoyi once again recalled the fear of being dominated by the rich, and her head was full of black lines. I wish you a pleasant journey, dirty capitalist Mr. Downey. Xiaoyi, who was filled with displeasure, directly disconnected the phone. I thought things would have to wait for 2 days, but I didn't expect that just after I returned to the living room and watched a TV series with Lorna for a while, a strange phone call came in. Hello, I am Tony's new assistant Natasha. Mr. Tony has asked me to inform you when General Ross has any movements in New York. A charming female voice came from the phone, like a feather tickling the summer night. His ears were the same, and his whole body became excited in an instant. This is the widowed sister. The widowed sister speaks so nicely. Who is it? Although Lorna to her couldn't hear what they were saying, she immediately felt a strong threat when she heard the voice. She immediately turned her attention away from the TV and stared at Xiaoyi. I'm Tony's assistant. I asked Tony for something. Xiaoyi quickly explained to Lorna, and then said to Natasha on the phone. Yes, is there news so soon? Having learned from the past 2 times, and knowing that Tony was going to Morocco, he had already anticipated the appearance of the widowed sister. Xiaoyi did not do anything to expose the other party's identity. But since the widowed sister knows that she is inquiring about General Ross, then S.H.I.E.L.D. should also know. S.H.I.E.L.D. must know about the Hulk, but it may not have included the Hulk on the watch list of the Avengers plan yet. And even providing intelligence to General Ross. It stands to reason that S.H.I.E.L.D. would be suspicious if it knew that it was inquiring about General Ross, but since the widowed sister called as if nothing was wrong, Nick Fury must support Xiaoyi in taking action. In other words, General Ross's actions against the Green Men were not only authorized by the military, but also supported by the World Security Council. This may explain why S.H.I.E.L.D. did not stop General Ross's actions. One Eye is also under pressure from the World Security Council. In fact, they are coming to New York and seem to be hunting someone. Action is expected to be taken tomorrow. Natasha Hui reported. So fast. Xiaoyi was very surprised. I remember that in the movie, in order to eliminate the Hulk in his body, Banner and Betty should go to Gabang Academy to meet Mr. Blue, that is, Dr. Stern, the future supervillain, Big Boss. Maybe Tony would welcome a big green head to Stark Industries' research team. Maybe his steel suit will become stronger. I know. Xiaoyi stopped thinking and hung up the phone. What's the news? Lorna asked curiously from the side. News about a limited edition sports car. I plan to get a driver's license. This place is too remote. It's best to drive when going out. You know, the cars in the garage originally belonged to Tony, and they were all classic cars. I don't like classic cars. Xiaoyi lied casually. I want it too. I like Hummer. Lorna's eyes lit up. No problem. Xiaoyi waved her hands perfunctorily, pretending to continue watching TV, and continued to recall the plots of Hulk movies in her ES life. Where is the battle between Abomination and Green Fatty? You can't just go to the university and wait, right? When the military arrests Banner, they will definitely clear out the surrounding people. He can't just stay here and not leave. Think about it carefully. It seems to be at a certain intersection on Broadway Road. Anyway, tomorrow is the time to test the results of this period of training. Xiaoyi was extremely excited. On the other side, a black bald man stood in front of the widow who had hung up the phone. It was Nick Fury. Can he really solve this problem for us? The widowed sister asked doubtfully. No. You also know how destructive Dr. Banner can be after his transformation. Although his ability is strong, he is still far from the Hulk. Nick Fury turned his head and said seriously. Then why? He can help us establish contact with Dr. Banner. The future Avengers need that big green guy. Nick Fury interrupted what the widow was about to ask. But, he might die. We are all going to die. Chapter 53. Xiaoyi had no idea of being taken advantage of. He had just finished lunch the day, so he made an excuse and told Lorna that he wanted to see the car, and then walked out. Lorna didn't seem to suspect anything. As for how to explain it later, let's finish it first. As I wandered around Broadway on a summer night until it got dark, I saw many military trucks and armored vehicles, carrying many heavily armed American soldiers, converging in one direction. He quickly followed and found that the direction they were gathering was indeed Gabon Academy. A large number of soldiers surrounded an experimental building in the hospital area. Xia Yexiang took a closer look but was roughly stopped by a soldier. It looks like the drama is about to begin. If I remember correctly, the abomination should be a veteran named Blonsky, who had been injected with the super soldier serum twice, and then forced Dr. Stern to inject him with the Hulk serum. Thinking of this, Xiaoyi felt that she should hide first, at least until Dr. Banner could transform into the Hulk before coming out. Blonsky, this irrational pervert, was injected with the super soldier serum twice before he turned into an abomination. Even if the original serum injected by Captain America has only a quarter of the effect of the super soldier serum, 2 injections may have caught up to half of Captain America. Coupled with the Hulk serum, the combat effectiveness may skyrocket. To what extent? Judging from the violent Hulk in the movie, he is at least stronger than the Hulk who does not have much anger bonus. Strawberry Hulk is at least a starburst, which translates to at least 20,000 combat power in the Dragon Ball world, so Hatred has a combat power of 20,000, which is the same level as Vegeta who first came to the Earth in Dragon Ball. Maybe even stronger, because Vegeta relies on Qigong bombs to penetrate the crust and destroy the core of the Earth to destroy planets, while the Hulk relies on pure power. Therefore, even though Xiaoyi is now thinking about fighting Hatred and can hardly contain her excitement, she still suppresses it, puts on her hood and hides far away, on the roof of a building in the distance, observe the military's actions with the telescopes prepared long ago. After almost half an hour, Xiaoyi saw Dr. Banner being escorted onto a transport helicopter, followed closely by General Ross and his daughter Betty. Xiaoyi's breathing became heavy. He knew that the abomination was about to appear. He slowly floated up, closely following the helicopter containing Dr. Banner at high altitude. This is one of the results of his special training, Wukong Shu. Compared to the Dragon Ball warriors in the later stages of Dragon Ball who used jets of Qi to move at high speeds in midair, due to the fact that the amount of Qi was not enough to support that kind of squandering, his current dance speed is much slower, but it is also much faster than the speed of a vehicle. Naturally, it can also keep up with a transport helicopter. His mastery of Qi was simply divided into 3 levels. The most basic skill of 35xs is to be able to smoothly control one's own Qi, and to quickly mobilize it for both attack and defense. The intermediate skill is to concentrate and release Qi, send and receive it at will, and control the size of one's own Qi. The standard for reaching this level is Wukong technique, which requires a complete balance of the Qi released by the body. At this level, ordinary Qigong bombs can also be fired at will. The most advanced skill is the humanoid radar, which can see and sense things with Qi. How angry others are. Xiaoyi is now at the 2nd level and is still confused about how to use Qi to see things. Controlling Qi requires state, and it can only be said that his state is not enough. Not even 2 minutes into the flight, several explosions were heard in the distance, seemingly several blocks away. Then the helicopter carrying Dr. Banner stopped. By this time they were far away from Broadway. Xiaoyi knew that according to the plot, General Ross must have learned about Blonsky's transformation into an abomination and was preparing to bring the helicopter back to release the Hulk. After thinking about it, Xiaoyi decided to find Abomination first and then turned around and flew towards the place where the explosion occurred. To be on the safe side, Xiaoyi found an uninhabited corner to land when he was 300 or 400 meters away from the explosion point. It was easy to find, as a monster was wreaking havoc on the street, and everyone in many places had fled. Put on the black Xiaoyun suit and mask, Yi Xiaoxia makes his debut. The narcissistic Xiaoyi made a show, but unfortunately no one saw it. Walking onto the street, Xiaoyi was surprised to see panicked crowds and police rushing to evacuate people. Aren't ordinary people who can settle in New York a certain level of nerves and accustomed to having a guy who wants to destroy the world pop up at every turn? Maybe the plot has just unfolded and these people are not used to it yet. Xiaoyi hurried against the flow of people in the direction of hatred. On the way, she glanced sympathetically at the police uncles who were too busy to even notice the appearance of a superhero. Being a police officer in a place like New York sounds like being a lifeguard for the national swimming team, but in fact, sometimes dealing with the tail end of superhero illegal law enforcement is more difficult than punishing crimes. Soon Xiaoyi saw the abomination that was destroying crazily. To be honest, hate feels more disgusting in real life than in the movie. It's like a skinless humanoid carapace creature. It has no skin, its muscle fibers are exposed, and it grows together with the carapace. There are bone spurs on its back. It's simply ugly. Summer Night feels like it is the ugliest among the Marvel movies, followed by Dr. Lizard. Where's the Hulk? Get that guy out. Abomination shouted, causing explosions everywhere in the streets. Xiaoyi watched two soldiers launch shoulder-fired missiles at Abomination, but they were crushed like toys. Then the two soldiers were killed by Abomination with a taxi. Holding the missile with one hand, lifting the car with one hand. Just from the performance of these few moments, Xiaoyi knew that the power of hatred definitely surpassed him. He can now lift a car with one hand, but it will definitely not be like holding a piece of paper like Abomination, let alone holding a missile with one hand. Now there is a question mark as to whether he can defend against missiles. Xiaoyi hesitated for a moment, but decided not to use the combat index meter to measure the Abomination's combat effectiveness. After all, it is an old version, and the upper limit of measurement is only 20,000 combat power. According to Xiaoyi's estimation, the combat power of Abomination and Hulk exceeded 20,000. Logically speaking, the wisest choice at this time would be to stay far away and wait for Hulk to come out before attacking. But after all, he is also a superhero, so it's not a problem to just watch Abomination continue to cause casualties. Even if he can't go up and fight Abomination in a duel, since he can fly, it should be okay to harass him far away, right? Thinking like this, Xiaoyi slowly rose into the sky. Hey, big man, you're so ugly. Xiaoyi flew to Hatred's head and shouted loudly. Huh. Hatred suddenly raised his head, staring at Xiaoyi with his bloodthirsty eyes. Xiaoyi felt like a little sheep being stared at by a wild wolf, her hair standing on end and her muscles stiffening instantly. Is it too late for me to apologize to you now? Xiaoyi wanted to cry. Chapter 54 Battle Against Abomination. Bang. Boom. Bang. These three loud noises were caused by Xiaoyi being jumped up and slapped away by Hatred, Xiaoyi smashing through the wall of an innocent resident's house, and Xiaoyi hitting a family's sumptuous dinner. Oh. Xiaoyi, who felt that all her internal organs were mixed together by the impact, took a long time to catch her breath. Once she recovered, she couldn't help but moan. Monster. Turning around, he saw a family of 5 innocent residents, including his parents, grandparents, and a little boy who looked to be under 10 years old, looking at him in shock. I'm sorry to disturb your dinner. And I shouldn't have said bad words just now. Children, don't imitate me. Xiaoyi touched the little boy's head twice and flew out through the hole he just made. Xiaoyi was at least 80 meters away from the ground just now, and it was still through the explosions and screams that filled the street that he had to use his breath to shake his voice. But even at such a long distance, just one look from Hatred made him break out in a cold sweat. Xiaoyi had never felt this way before, like a lower-level creature feeling uncontrollable and instinctive fear when faced with a higher-level creature. Even when Hatred jumped up and swatted him away like a fly, he even forgot to dodge. If Hatred hadn't paid him any attention at all and didn't use much force, maybe he didn't hit the dining table, but hit the wall and turned into a puddle of minced meat. For the specific situation, you can refer to the anime One Punch, the scene in Superman where the protagonist shoots a mosquito girl to death. 35xs. Maybe it's because the gap in combat power is too big, maybe it's because hatred has really broken away from the limitations of the human level of life. But anyway, this feeling is bad. Calm down. Although Abomination is powerful, it can't fly. He can't rely on his strength when he jumps in the air. As long as the distance is further away, he can be avoided in advance. My mission is to hold him back before the Hulk appears. Just don't let him cause more damage. Xia Yi cheered herself up in her heart and made a simple plan. The summer night quickly rose into the sky, overlooking the street at an altitude of 300 meters. The helicopter carrying Dr. Banner in the distance could already be seen with the naked eye, and the Abomination under his feet was still squandering its power wantonly, smashing holes into the streets. Where is Hulk? Let him come out and fight me. Even high in the sky, shouts of hatred can be heard on summer nights. Now was a good opportunity to strike first. He took a stance in midair and quickly concentrated all his energy into his hands at his waist. His control of Qi is much better than before. It used to take half a minute to gather Qi, but now it only takes 2 seconds for a Qigong bomb that is enough to be launched to take shape. As if feeling the threat coming from the sky, hatred suddenly raised his head and stared at the summer night in midair. Xia Yi was stared at with hatred, and her heart shook violently, but she still gritted her teeth and pushed the Qigong bomb out. The turtle Qigong bullet was like a shooting star, dragging its long tail and flying towards Abomination. 35xs. He saw that Abomination did not dodge or evade, and did not even make any defensive moves, letting the turtle-style Qigong hit him. Turtle brand Qigong exploded like a missile. The high-density energy exploded vertically within a diameter of more than 10 meters. A small mushroom cloud slowly rose. The shock wave of the explosion pushed away countless vehicles on the street and shook all the surrounding glass. Broken. Fortunately, there was no one nearby, otherwise it would have caused a lot of casualties. If someone happened to be in the explosion range, he would be unlucky. The turtle school Qigong hit, but Xia Yi became even more nervous. Judging from hatred's performance just now, he didn't seem to take it seriously when he hit the turtle-style Qigong with all his strength. Now I just hope that his attack can cause a little trouble for Abomination, even if it is only a slight injury. The smoke gradually dissipated, revealing a huge regular circular pit on the ground. You could also see a broken underground pipe spraying water. At the bottom of the pit, the abominable figure submerged in the dust gradually began to appear. Clear. Unscathed. Xia Ye's face under the mask showed a horrified expression. Hatred waved his hand vigorously, and the airflow generated instantly swept away the flying dust. He flicked the dust off his shoulders, raised his head and shouted towards Xia Yi, "Are you giving me a bath, little fly?" Xia Yi didn't respond to the hateful words, her whole body muscles tensed, and she was highly alert to hateful movements. Seeing that Xia Yi ignored him, he curled his lips in disgust, stepped hard on the ground with his feet, and immediately rose into the air like a rocket, rushing towards Xia Yi. So fast. If the speed of flying on a summer night is equivalent to twice the speed of an F1 racing car, then the speed of hatred at this time is like an F-22 fighter jet flying at full speed. At the moment of lifting off the ground, you can clearly see the sound barrier caused by the speed breaking through the speed of sound. More importantly, facing the hateful attack, Xia Yi felt a sense of panic as a prey, which seriously affected his performance. Fortunately, he had experienced a similar feeling just now and was prepared. He gritted his teeth and moved his body, quickly moving sideways to avoid the attack of the Abomination. At the same time, he pushed his hands in the direction of the Abomination, and a Qigong bomb flew towards the Abomination. Go. I don't want to hurt Abomination, I just want to slow down Abomination's speed a little so that I can avoid the attack. Boom. The Qigong bomb hit the disgusting big face of hatred, but the moment hatred rushed out from the smoke of the explosion, Xia Yi only had time to move a few meters laterally, barely avoiding the Abomination's attack range. Abomination flew away from him like a cannonball, and the airflow even caused him to roll several times in the air. Boom. Abomination smashed into a building to it, making a big hole. From the hole, people could be seen running around because of the sudden appearance of Abomination. We can't let him cause trouble in there. Xia Ye's heart trembled, and all the energy in his body began to rage. He pushed forward with his hands alternately, and small qigong bullets passed through the holes made by Abomination at extremely fast speeds and hit Abomination inside the building. The power of these qigong bombs is very small, not as powerful as military high-explosive grenades, but Xiaoyi does not expect to use these qigong bombs to hurt Abomination, just to attract Abomination's attention. Sure enough, the qigong bomb exploded on Abomination, not even scratching a layer of his oily skin. But Xiaoyi's goal was achieved. He went from ignoring Xiaoyi's attacks at the beginning to constantly waving his hands to block the air bombs, and was obviously a little annoyed. He withstood Xiaoyi's attack and rushed forward 2 steps. He rushed to the wall he smashed open, grabbed a piece of gravel and threw it towards Xiaoyi, then jumped up and rushed towards Xiaoyi. Go! The gravel made a sharp sound of breaking through the air, and it was obvious that the power of hatred was terrifying. Behind Xiaoyi is another building. You can also see many brave people lying on the windows to watch the battle. If you avoid it, many people will definitely die. Xiaoyi had no choice but to quickly gather a gas bomb and blow up the rubble. Then the moment, Abomination hit him with a fist. In an instant, he felt that all the bones in his body made a dangerous snapping sound, and then he fell straight down like a meteorite with a bang sound. It hit the ground and made a hole in the hard masonry floor. Poof! Xiaoyi spat out a mouthful of blood, and then saw a thin figure falling from the sky, landing to him with a dong sound. Chapter 55 Green Fat appears. Pushing back the time to 2 minutes ago, the transport helicopter carrying General Ross, Dr. Banner, and Betty was hovering to the battlefield between Xiaoyi and the Abomination. Let me go, I must go. Dr. Banner begged General Ross. You should understand that thing was created by us. You know how powerful it is. General Ross was looking at the monitor to him, which showed the scene of Xiaoyi firing continuous qigong bombs at the Abominations in the building. Originally, he was worried that Abomination would cause too much damage to New York City, but the unexpected appearance of Xiaoyi dispelled his worries. The energy attack, which was comparable to a direct missile, was really impressive. Maybe this guy who suddenly appeared can help him deal with the unexpected monster. At that time, all the damage to New York can be blamed on this person and that monster, and at least he can keep his position. No, there is a flying weirdo there. He can. He started to say, but before he finished speaking, he saw Xiaoyi being hit by the monster's fist and hitting the ground. He didn't know whether he was alive or dead. Is this the end? General Ross was speechless. After a moment of silence, he could only nod and agreed to Dr. Banner's request. Okay, land nearby. No, stop at high altitude and open the rear hatch. Dr. Banner said quickly. General Ross took a deep look at Banner and nodded to the soldiers on the side. 35XS only heard a mechanical transmission sound coming from behind the cabin, and the roaring wind instantly filled the entire cabin. Banner walked to the rear hatch and was about to jump off when Betty rushed over and grabbed his hand, saying anxiously, "Wait, Bruce, what are you doing? You have to think clearly, you don't know if you will transform. Don't do this, it's too crazy." Betty stared into Banner's eyes, her eyes full of worry. "Betty, I have to try." Banner looked at Betty affectionately and persuaded. He was silent for a moment, as if there were thousands of words stuck in his heart, but only one word came out, "Sorry." Betty felt Banner's determination, finally gave Banner a deep kiss, and then let go. Banner fell on his back and began to fall freely in the air. So the last scene of the ES chapter happened. Xiaoyi's whole body was in pain, and it was obvious that many bones were broken, but he was still conscious and immediately recognized who the person who fell to him was. "Hey, what a coincidence, you fell from the sky too." Xiaoyi held back for a long time and didn't know what to say, so she could only say hello, and then she saw Banner's skin turning green at a speed visible to the naked eye. The body began to soar like a balloon. "Stay away from me." These were the last words Banner said while still maintaining his sanity. Strawberry. Without personal experience, it's hard to imagine what it's like to watch Banner transform into the Hulk less than 2 meters away from you, but you can be sure that this is definitely not a good experience. Xiaoyi, who is familiar with the plot, knows that Hulk is basically an irrational monster when facing Betty at this time. It is definitely not a good choice to get too close to him at this time. Xiaoyi, who has a strong desire to survive, has achieved the achievement of finding hatred to kill, and decided to leave this place of right and wrong as soon as possible to heal his wounds, and work hard to press Hulk to the ground and rub him as soon as possible. He endured the pain to gather the energy in his body, and tried his best to use Wukong to float, and then he was caught. Just like an ignorant child grabbing a bird, he was caught in Hulk's hand. "Hey, we just said hello, you should know me. Can you please put me down?" Xia Ye's face became paler and she hurriedly shouted to Hulk. This guy's hand strength is not serious. He already had a few broken ribs, but he just heard 2 more clicks. Although he couldn't tell clearly because his whole body was in pain, another bone must have been broken. Ouch. Hulk ignored him, held him with open arms, and roared in the direction of hatred like a beast. Abomination was very excited when he heard Hulk's voice, and ran all the way, blowing up 2 cars and flying 6 passers-by along the way. Seeing the hatred rushing towards him, Hulk raised the Xia Yi in his hand. "Wait, do you want to throw me out? Don't do this, my injury is already very serious." On Saturday. With a motion of throwing a baseball, Xia Yi flicked his arm vigorously, and Xia Yi was like a baseball thrown by an ace pitcher, screaming all the way as it hit Hate. Hatred raised his hand and slapped her. Xia Yi flew out again and was smashed into a newsstand with a bang. Cough cough cough, fuck. Xia Yi coughed twice while covering her chest, and spat out a mouthful of blood again, with a look of grief and anger on her face. After all, I am also a time traveler, and I also have my own system, which can be used as a proper protagonist template in online novels. But since he began to accept his destiny and become a superhero, except for the time when he fought Kingpin, he was the one who was beaten. At other times, he was the one who got beaten. Think about Dr. Lizard, think about the Iron Overlord who has kept him in the hospital for a long time, think about the hatred that almost killed him with a light punch. It seems that he has been hammered here and there by the villains, and they all rely on their superhero teammates. Got some redemption points. What about the Scions who were promised to be invincible? Xia Yi almost cried out. He realized that he might be the most miserable time traveler in history. When today is over, unless there is a plot that I am sure to pass, I will never run out to find excitement. He struggled to stand up and wanted to go out and watch the battle between Abomination and Hulk, but his body was completely out of control. The cell phone in the clothes was vibrating, as if someone was calling. Xia Yi didn't even have the strength to pick up the phone now, but the ringtone reminded him of a question that made him feel even more anxious. How should he tell Lorna that he was so seriously injured? Did you say that you were hit by a falling object from a height? But what kind of falling objects from high altitude can hurt a Scion with a combat power of over 2,000? So how was the fall on the road? Flying in the sky and suddenly losing power and falling down like this seems like a good excuse, but it's a bit too silly. But when she thought about Lorna not talking to him for a long time when she was angry, Xia Yi felt that it was okay to be silly sometimes. Well, that's the reason. Xia Yi was just thinking wildly, but he knew that his internal organs must be injured. He was bleeding internally, and as the blood loss became more severe, he felt his mouth was dry and his consciousness was gradually blurring. Congratulations on defeating the enemy and obtaining 105,376 redemption points. Just when Xia Yi thought he was about to die and about to lose consciousness, a system prompt woke him up instantly. Chapter 56 Hulk is gone. Damn it, after missing Iron Man's self-revelation press conference, I also missed the epic battle between Hulk and Abomination. Wait, Abomination actually provided him with more than 100,000 redemption points. His combat power exceeds 100,000. Did I just provoke a monster that could easily destroy the Earth? Wait a minute, I have more than 100,000 redemption points now. Xia Yi quickly opened the system store, flipped to the treatment category, and hesitated for 2 seconds between the treatment warehouse and the fairy beans, before choosing the fairy beans. Originally, he planned to redeem the healing chamber first, which is a machine in Dragon Ball that allows Frisia's Legion to recover from any injuries as long as they soak in it for a period of time. It also requires 100,000 redemption points, but it can be used multiple times, but the treatment time is longer. After each treatment, it costs 1,000 redemption points to replace the nutrient solution, which is much more affordable than fairy beans. But this thing cannot be used even if it is redeemed now. Let's not talk about whether this thing will be taken away by some organizations if it appears on the street openly. It takes energy to activate this thing. Although electricity can also be used, the voltage required is very high. Where can I find a matching energy source now? Even if he could find it, he would get into a strange machine on the street to heal his injuries. How big of a heart do you have to be to make such a mindless decision? But after finally winning the lottery, with 35 redemption points, in the blink of an eye I got a magic bean, and it disappeared without even tasting it. This feeling is like letting a poor man go. It was like throwing banknotes on the street, which made his heart hurt. XS. There are obviously a lot of good things that I want to redeem. As the beans are swallowed, a surge of vitality begins to spread from the stomach to the body, filling every cell in the body almost instantly. Like magic, the wounds on his body healed instantly, and the broken bones felt warm and reconnected in an instant. Not only was the body recovering, no matter the energy consumed or the spirit was sluggish, it was back to its peak state in the blink of an eye, even stronger than before. It is worthy of being compared to the legendary Dali pill. It is specially designed to treat any bruises and injuries. It takes effect instantly and has no toxic or side effects. Such a magical prop, if you have the opportunity, you must exchange it and study it. If you can copy it, even if you only have a small part of the original version, it will be of great practicality. Maybe Tony would be interested. But those things will have to be discussed later. The question now is what will be the outcome of the war outside. Xiaoyi easily pushed away half of the newsstand that was pressed against her body, and was about to find where Hulk was when she heard a muffled boom, and turned around to see a fat green figure falling from the sky, landing to Xiaoyi. As if realizing that Xiaoyi was an acquaintance, Hulk did not jump up again immediately, but looked at Xiaoyi curiously. I seem to have seen this guy somewhere. Where is it? Hulk tilted his head and expressed his doubts. Now the angry Hulk's personality in Banner's body is not yet complete, like an ignorant child. Ah, hi. Xiaoyi greeted cautiously, feeling that facing Hulk was really stressful. He had just healed himself, and he didn't want to be thrown out as a weapon again. If I had known it would be better to just lie in the newsstand, why would I have to go out and have fun? Xiaoyi kept scolding herself secretly in her heart. Hulk likes you. The Hulk seemed to have thought of something, his eyes instantly brightened, and he reached out to catch Xiaoyi. He recognized the man in front of him as the guy who was briefly used as a weapon when he fought against Abomination. At that time, he unexpectedly discovered that this guy felt very good. He decided to carry it with him in the future. Mom sells batches. Xiaoyi thought Hulk wanted to attack him and quickly tried to hide. In fact, if Xiaoyi knew that Hulk was going to carry him with him as a weapon, she might fight Hulk desperately. Hulk's movements seemed slow, but that was due to Hulk's huge size. In fact, Hulk was very fast. In just a few seconds, Xiaoyi made more than a dozen evasive movements, but none of them avoid Hulk's attack range. Just when Xiaoyi was hiding from dangers and felt desperate, a beam of light suddenly hit her head. Hulk seemed to be afraid of the beam of light, and hurriedly covered his face with his hands. He turned his head and glanced at Xiaoyi angrily, kicked off his feet, and jumped away like a giant ape. Saved. Xiaoyi breathed a sigh of relief and looked up. It was a helicopter calling. The helicopter belongs to the New York radio station that always appears at the scene of superhero battles as soon as possible. I never thought I would like reporters so much. Xiaoyi shook her head and sighed, turning around and rushing into the darkness. He found a corner, ripped off his tattered shirt and threw it into the trash can. He took off into the air with only his nearly broken mask and flew all the way back to his villa. Without disturbing Hill and Lorna as much as possible, he quietly returned to his room, changed into a pair of similarly tattered clothes, and then hid the changed clothes under the bed. Very good, like this no one can tell who he fought with. But you can't change your suit every time you fight in the future, right? It seems that I must ask Tony to help design a set in a few days. It doesn't need too many fancy functions, just strong and durable. Speaking of which, he was on the verge of death today, right? How much has the combat effectiveness increased? Xiaoyi took out the combat index measuring instrument. Maybe the props produced by the system had full luck value. After he fought with Abomination and hoped to kill him, the combat index measuring instrument hidden in his clothes was actually intact. My combat power now is 4003. Xiaoyi looked surprised. This fighting power is already stronger than that of Piccolo when Vegeta first came to the Earth. After all, today's attempt to die was not fruitless. But this is just the beginning. Now his combat effectiveness belongs to the third echelon even on Earth. The first echelon is Odin, an Ancient One, and perhaps Captain Marvel, who will appear in the future, can also be counted among them. They are all perverts, at least at the level of a single universe. Thanos has to wait until they are dead before coming to Earth. There is no need to think about it in this short period of time, and he will not mess with them. The second echelon is the powerful ones of Thor, Hulk, Scarlet Witch, and Phoenix. They belong to the planetary level. Hulk is at the bottom. Tony, who has the Hulkbuster armor, may barely be able to squeeze in. Now my main goal is to surpass the Hulk, at least to defeat the normal Hulk. The third echelon is Spider-Man, Wolverine, Deadpool, Magneto. There are many people in this echelon. They all have superpowers far beyond those of normal people and have a wide range of combat capabilities, but none of them have the ability to destroy a planet. They belong to the extraordinary level. Xiaoyi can now be ranked in the upper mid-range among them, and it would be scary for him to fight against an opponent of Magneto's level. The fourth echelon is Captain America, Black Widow, and Hawkeye. They are much stronger than normal people, but they are not abnormal. As for street heroes like Daredevil and the Punisher, they may have some trivial superpowers, but overall they are still at the level of normal people. It's no problem to deal with a few gangsters, but it's not enough to deal with unconventional battles. Of course, this is the same as the division of strength and belongs to Xia Ye's own classification. The combat power level of the Marvel world itself has specific quantitative standards, and Xia Yi can only rely on estimates. No matter what, the special training must continue, and it must be even harder. Chapter 57. Tony is back. What kind of snack is this? I want to buy some too. One afternoon a few days later, an uninvited guest came to Xia Ye's home, Tony Stark. He was sitting on Xia Ye's exclusive sofa for Guyupra, stuffing his mouth with the traditional Chinese snack Xia Yi bought, preserved fruits. Why are you here? Aren't you supposed to be in the basement of your home, concentrating on studying your new steel suit? Xia Yi asked with a hint of disgust. I'm here to see you. In fact, visiting a friend's house is one of the 100 things I list before I die. But you know, I don't need any friends at all. Now I finally have one, yes, so I came. Tony shrugged and said nonchalantly. Lorna came out of the kitchen and placed the brewed tea in front of Tony. Thank you, beautiful little girl. Although I am more accustomed to drinking coffee, maybe I should try tea drinks. It's healthier, isn't it? Tony smiled mischievously and said to Lorna. I'm not your friend. Xia Yi retorted to Tony, then turned to look at Lorna dissatisfied. This is my preserved fruit, my tea. Why are you giving it to this guy? However, his complaints only earned Lorna a blank stare. Lorna still found out about the battle between him and Abomination. A reporter with extraordinary abilities obtained a live video shot by a passerby. There were overwhelming reports about which battle. Lorna had a hard time not knowing. Even though Xia Yi tried his best to lie, saying that it was just his admirers who fought against Abomination that day, and they were just wearing the same battle uniform, he had already gone home at that time. 35XS, but Lorna didn't believe it, so from that day on, Lorna began to ignore Xia Yi to express her dissatisfaction. Don't be so stingy. You had a fight with an ugly monster on the streets of New York a few days ago. Tony asked suddenly. I'm not. I didn't. Stop talking nonsense. Xia Yi immediately denied it 3 times excitedly and winked at Tony crazily. If I go there, I will definitely take Lorna with me. Lorna is very powerful. She is an admirer of mine. She just wears the same clothes as me. Tony's emotional intelligence was quite high, and he immediately understood what Xia Yi meant. But understanding what Xia Yi meant did not mean that he would follow it. Tony instead intensified his efforts to undermine Xia Yi. It's not you. That's impossible. Jarvis compared the physical data between you and the men in the threaded mask in the video. 100% consistent. Besides, I don't think anyone would have a hairstyle like yours that looks like, well, how should I put it, like an electric chicken coop. Do you really not think about changing it? I meet a good hairstylist. Lorna turned her head and looked at him in shock and disappointment, then turned and ran out of the room. Although she felt that what Xia Yi said was unbelievable, after Xia Yi worked hard to wash the floor for so many days, she really believed it. It turned out that this was also a lie to her. Men are all big pig hooves. Lorna felt aggrieved and wanted to cry. Lorna. Xiaoyi quickly stood up and wanted to chase after him, but Tony held him back. Hey man, you can't stalk girls. Sometimes just ignoring them for a while will always work. Tony taught Xiaoyi his secrets on picking up girls. Donnie, you are such a bastard. Xiaoyi stared at Tony's face angrily and said every word. Yes, I never deny this. Is it the first day you met me? Tony raised his eyebrows at Xiaoyi shamelessly. Xiaoyi suddenly held her breath. I have to say that if Tony didn't care about the title Donnie, Tony would still be better in terms of attacking people. Tell me, what do you want from me? Xiaoyi didn't bother to argue with Tony anymore, so she sat on the sofa to her and started eating preserved fruit. I don't believe that your so-called 100 things you must do before you die is true. It's true that Tony felt like he was about to die, but judging from Tony's performance in Iron Man 2, all he thought about before his death was indulgence and wantonness. Entrusting Mark to his friend Colonel Rhodes was the most responsible thing to do. One thing. At the end of the movie, the widow's assessment of Tony is very clear: he has self-destructive tendencies and is a typical narcissist. Who can guarantee that he will not go crazy after knowing that his death is imminent and there is no way to save it? Maybe it's time to tell Tony about the new element. Moreover, Lorna's control over her abilities has become more refined recently, and she can even decompose metal, but she is still not able to control metal like a liquid like Magneto. Maybe Lorna can help with the shrapnel in Tony's body. Xiaoyi was a little hesitant. Which part do you not believe? 100 things to do before you die, or that you are my friend? Tony asked curiously. Yes, it's incredible and a huge surprise to be my friend. But I can tell you, I mean it. Xiaoyi didn't say anything, just silently watching him show off. After being stared at for a while, Tony couldn't hold himself any longer and raised his hands in a gesture of surrender. Okay, I admit that the 100 things before my death are false. You know, I never have any plan for doing things. And Tony's face turned serious. Why are there two monsters fighting each other on the streets of New York? The military blocked the news and even hid it from me. I hacked into the military's database and only found that the green one was originally a man named Bruce Banner, physicist, and the ugly one turned out to be a veteran named Blonsky. What did the military do? Does Tony still care about this? Tony's question surprised Xiaoyi, who frowned and fell silent. Do you need to tell Tony about this? No matter what, he was just looking for a fight with Abomination, and the whole story had nothing to do with him. General Ross of the military is trying to reproduce Captain America's super soldier serum. The result is that the green monster, calling himself Hulk, does not seem to have the same consciousness as Bruce Banner. In order to capture Hulk, he indirectly created that ugly monster. I prefer to call him abhorrent. Xiaoyi still hid something to end Tony from seeing his foresight. Damn it, I've said it before. The Super Soldier project was terminated for a reason. Why don't you trust the hardware and insist on messing with other people's bodies? Tony complained, then looked up at Xiaoyi. So how strong are those two monsters? You should have tested it with your strange-looking unilateral glasses, right? No. The upper limit of my combat index meter is only 20,000 combat power. It's obvious that they have exceeded this value. Xiaoyi replied with a shrug. More than 20,000? Tony was shocked. Do they want to destroy the world? Will this destroy the world? Still early. I don't know what the progress of the Umbrella Company's research on the T-virus is, which is what can really destroy the world, not to mention the subsequent plots of the Chitauri army, the arrival of Ultron, the invasion of Thanos, etc. In short, Xiaoyi scoffed at Tony's words. Is this scary? Really ignorant? In fact, the combat power of those two monsters is definitely more than 100,000. You should know that I use turtle-style Qigong on the ugly one. It is a glowing ball. That move will make me the combat power briefly surge to over 10,000, but as you saw, that guy was unscathed. What the fuck? Tony was shocked. Chapter 58 Tony's Treatment Plan. Can your combat power exceed 10,000? Don't you only have more than 500 combat power? Tony asked in shock. 500. That was a long time ago. My current combat power is 4,003. By the way, your focus is wrong, right? Those two monsters have more than 100,000 combat power. Don't you want to say something? Xiaoyi said helplessly to Tony. Man, I know it's embarrassing for you to be beaten up by a big ugly man, but it's not good to exaggerate the strength of yourself and the other party. Tony sneered at Xiaoyi's words. This is not shameful at all. Xiaoyi's forehead had veins popping out. Everything I say is true. If those two monsters are willing, they can break the earth at any time. If you don't believe it, you can test my fighting power. What a tough talk. Jarvis, test Mr. Xiaoyi's fighting ability. Tony stuffed a piece of preserved fruit into his mouth and said disapprovingly. Mr. Xiaoyi's combat power is 4,852 points, sir. Jarvis's voice rang in Tony's ears, and Tony was so shocked by the candied fruit he stuffed into his mouth that he forgot to chew and swallowed it. Ahem, God. Tony quickly raised his teacup and drank it all in one gulp, thus avoiding the humiliating death of choking to death on preserved fruit. How did you do it? Even if I put on the latest Mark IV armor, I only have a combat power of just over 2,000. Practice. You know, I'm in special training. If you want, I can also help you gain higher combat effectiveness. Without wearing armor, it's very easy for you to easily surpass the limits of human beings. Xiaoyi shrugging proudly. How about it, do you believe it now? Iron Man Tony Stark was silent for a long time. Those two guys are really that scary, he asked suddenly. Of course, it's not an exaggeration at all. Xiaoyi had to answer firmly. You will deal with them, right? With the speed at which your combat power has skyrocketed, you will definitely be able to defeat them, right? Tony stared at Xiaoyi with hope. No, I'm not sure. It's okay to say hatred. Hulk has the characteristic of getting stronger and stronger with anger. I don't know where its limit is. Xiaoyi shook his head. The normal Hulk is okay, and the angry Hulk may be okay, but if the Green Hulk, Four-Handed Hulk, Fusion Hulk, etc. from the comics appear, they might be able to pin Thanos to the ground and rub him. If those comic plots really happen, Natsuya would have to at least transform into a Super Saiyan to be able to fight the Hulk. Then what if I give you the steel suit? Tony asked, still staring at Xiaoyi. The steel suit doesn't increase me much. Xiaoyi frowned tightly, and he sensed that something was wrong with Tony. According to the plot, he should give the suit to Colonel Rhodes, right? Are you telling me about your funeral arrangements? Xiaoyi suddenly realized. That's right, among those who appear in front of Iron Man now, the strongest one who can be called a superhero should be himself. Tony wants to give me the task of protecting world peace. He suddenly opened Tony's shirt behind him. Hey. Man, what are you doing? I'm not interested in men. Tony quickly wanted to resist, but without the steel suit, he really wasn't fast enough in Xiaoyi's hands, and soon his shirt was torn open. The arc reactor revealing his chest. Around the mechanical device on his chest, gray lines spread all over his chest. Xiaoyi frowned even more tightly. He was just pretending to show that he had just discovered Tony's problem. But the sight in front of him was really scary. The gray lines looked like the blood vessels were filled with metal. It was hard to imagine that it was already like this. Tony looked quite healthy. If I said this is the most fashionable tattoo recently, would you believe it, right? Tony looked down at his chest, then looked at Xiaoyi's heavy expression, and said unconfidently. What's going on? Is it because of this light bulb? Xiaoyi tapped the arc reactor on Tony's chest and asked seriously. Yes, but I can guarantee that my arc reactor is absolutely safe. The arc reactor contains a large amount of palladium. This element is actually difficult to be absorbed by the human body, but you know, it does not need to be absorbed. It is in my inside the body. Tony explained. Have you never thought about taking this thing off? Xiaoyi interrupted Tony. Tony opened his mouth after hearing this and was silent for a moment before replying. It's impossible, there are several shrapnel around my heart, and it's all thanks to the magnetic adsorption of this thing that they didn't enter my heart with the blood flow. This thing gave me a second life, but now I have to take it back. What if I say I have a way? Xiaoyi suddenly said with a smile. Tony frowned. I said, this is impossible. Xiaoyi didn't care what Tony said, he revealed his plan. Lorna, you should know her ability, she can control metal. Recently she has been able to break down a small amount of metal into particles with a diameter of less than 1 millimeter. I believe it won't be long before she can decompose the metal to the molecular level. At that time, she can completely decompose the shrapnel in your body, and it can be excreted through urine without even taking it out. When Tony heard this, he immediately sat up straight. That sounds pretty good. How long will it take? Seeing Tony trying his best to suppress his excitement, Xiaoyi burst into laughter. It turns out that Iron Man is also afraid of death. According to Lorna's current cultivation progress, it will take at least 3 months. Xiaoyi replied. You know, when Lorna's control reaches the molecular level, her strength will definitely skyrocket. This matter is not that simple. I can't wait until that time. Tony lay down again, disappointed. Maybe you can try lithium dioxide, which should relieve your symptoms. Have you ever considered removing the palladium element from the light bulb on your chest? Xiaoyi said again. Lithium dioxide. Tony suddenly became interested. Using the first principles calculation method, a 3-phase interface catalysis model of palladium, oxygen, and lithium peroxide can be established. As a substrate, lithium dioxide can improve its own adsorption of palladium by promoting the charge transfer of palladium at the interface. Maybe it really works. Although it is estimated that it will only work until the concentration of palladium in the body reaches a certain level, it can at least extend my life for a few more months. Tony looked at Xiaoyi excitedly. Thanks, man. I don't know how your elm head came up with the idea, but your suggestion is good. If you don't add anything later, I will happily accept your thanks. Feeling Tony's poisonous tongue again, Xiaoyi was speechless. Didn't you hear my second suggestion? That can really save your life. I've tried all the elements, but none of them can replace the palladium element. Tony shook his head helplessly. What about the new elements? Xiaoyi raised an eyebrow. Are you kidding me? Tony asked in shock. Chapter 59 New Elements. Don't you understand? I mean, you can create a new element. Xiaoyi said with a smile. I understand. I know you haven't gone to school and lack common sense, but there must be a limit to your whims. New elements. Do you know how long it has been since humans discovered new elements? Tony mocked. That's not necessarily the case. Xiaoyi patted her chest smugly. Sometimes human progress comes from a flash of genius. Geniuses don't depend on education level, like me. You. Genius. Then you discovered a new element and let me take a look. Tony disapproved. It's not an invention, it's a creation. Xiaoyi smiled. Actually speaking, you built an expo, right? I heard that the design was left by your father. Don't you think that design drawing is very similar to an elemental structure diagram? I have to say, you are very imaginative. Tony also smiled. You actually think that people a century and a half ago would have more advanced technology than now? Who knows, after all, your father is a genius no less than you. You'd better go back and take a look, maybe I'm right. Xiaoyi shrugged. By the way, make me a suit. Just use the color of my old suit. It should be strong enough. Absolutely no tights. I think it's perverted to fight in that way. Why should I help you make a suit? Tony was very dissatisfied with Xiaoyi's request. 35xs. Because I saved your life. Xiaoyi patted Tony on the shoulder. If you have nothing else to do, hurry up and leave. I still have to train. Okay, for the sake of lithium dioxide. Tony curled his lips, stood up, took out his sunglasses from his chest, put them on and prepared to leave. Oh, right. He suddenly turned around and pulled down his sunglasses, revealing his eyes and looking at Xiaoyi. Will you come to my expo? Also, do you really not think about changing your hairstyle? I will go, remember to leave a good seat for me. As for the hairstyle, just think that I have recovered from a disease that will cause death if I change my hairstyle. On your side, you must remember to study the designs your father left for you. Picture. Xiaoyi said helplessly, pointing to the door. The exit is over there, just leave without sending me away. He wanted to change his hairstyle, but no matter how many times he tried it, even if he shaved his head bald, it would grow back to its original shape within a day without changing his style. The advantage is that you don't have to take care of your hair, and you won't lose your hair. As for the Ironman Expo, be sure to go and join in the fun. With so many steel soldiers, how can they provide more than 10,000 redemption points? It's so heartless. Anyway, I still consider you a friend. Tony curled his lips and left complaining. Time flies, and soon another 10 days have passed. Strawberry. There was a bedside quarrel between the husband and wife. Just a few days ago, Xiaoyi finally couldn't bear it and sincerely apologized to Lorna, and told all the things she hated about the war. After personally promising not to act alone again, the two finally reconciled. In order to end the qi cultivation method from being used by the enemy, Xiaoyi announced that Hill was starting to practice when she had just reached the point where she could barely mobilize the qi in her body. He also lied to her and said that in the future, she just had to keep practicing and let her qi continue to grow, and that she had nothing to teach her anymore. Hill seemed to realize that Xiaoyi was lying, but he packed up his things and left without saying anything. It's a pity that nothing happened with this beautiful woman. After all, Hill is estimated to be almost 40 years old now, and the age gap cannot be ignored. But Spider-Man seems to like Hill very much. Now he basically stays here except for going to school and sleeping, and nagging Hill endlessly whenever he has free time. It felt like if Hill hadn't been a well-trained agent who could control his emotions very well, the little spider would definitely have been beaten, but at least Xiaoyi was a lot quieter because of it. The most important thing is that Xiaoyi's practice in the past 10 days has finally made a breakthrough. He even temporarily gave up squeezing his body in the gravity chamber, and meditated like Goku in Dragon Ball when he meditated in the temple, and also consulted a lot of information about Taoist meditation. The results of my practice are very gratifying. I have finally reached a state where I can control the size of my own qi and can also see things with my qi. Maybe it was because of his improvement in realm, maybe because he broke some barriers, but after that, his combat effectiveness began to soar. In just a few days, the combat power has now reached 8,000, which is equivalent to the combat power of Sun Wukong when Vegeta first came to the Earth in Dragon Ball. As expected, the 10 gravity chamber had lost its exercise effect. Fortunately, Xiaoyi still had a lot of exchange points left. Just now, he paid the price difference and directly purchased the 50 times gravity chamber. The system took back the gravity chamber and renovated 3 small things, and now it has just been released. Just when Xiaoyi was excitedly planning to start a new round of training, another uninvited guest came uninvited. What are you doing here? Xiaoyi was shirtless, showing off her recently become more toned and well-proportioned figure, wiping sweat with a wet towel. I'm here to find you, Mr. Xiaoyi. Sitting opposite Xiaoyi was Nick Fury, director of S.H.I.E.L.D. I think we need to talk. What do we have to talk about? The deal has been completed, hasn't it? I've been abiding by the law lately and basically just stay at home for training. Xiaoyi threw the towel aside, ran to the closet on the side, and took out a dry sweater shirt. Is it possible that Hydra has been cleaned up, so it's so free? That's why I came to you. Fury flipped over a clean teacup on the tea table with ease and poured himself a cup of hot tea. I confirmed the accuracy of your intelligence. There is indeed Hydra lurking in S.H.I.E.L.D. After this period of investigation, we have identified many colleagues, but we have never dared to take action. My intuition tells me that there should be others behind them. There are big figures who hide deeper, am I right? You couldn't find out, so you came to me. Xiaoyi sat across from Fury and raised an eyebrow at Fury. He had been waiting for this day for a long time. Since there is no way to exchange the Qi training method for the Quinjet, maybe you can exchange it for the S.H.I.E.L.D. roster. Xiaoyi, who has watched the S.H.I.E.L.D. TV series, knows many hidden Hydra members in S.H.I.E.L.D. Among them are members of the U.S. government, members of the World Security Council, and even the former director of S.H.I.E.L.D. Xiaoyi plans to sell them at a good price. Yes. Fury blew on the hot tea. I want to know in detail what you saw when you traveled through time and space. Who are the Hydras and what did they do? Is this the attitude of asking for help? It's like I owe you something. I'm a scion now. Do you believe that I destroyed your S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters with a turtle-style qigong? Xiaoyi curled her lips in displeasure, lay down on the back of the sofa, and suddenly showed a mean smile. Want to know? Please beg me. Chapter 60 The Quinjet is obtained. Fury was almost angered by Xia Ye's mean look, but finally calmed down. Strictly speaking, you belong to the alien population of the Earth, and we have an obligation to understand your specific situation, including what you saw when you traveled through time. Things. Our scientists came to the conclusion after discussion that if you really traveled through time and space, you might actually be able to see some fragments of the past and the future, but they are not necessarily from this world, and they may even be parallel. Time and space. Don't you want to verify what you see? I don't want to. Xia Yi shook his head decisively. Anyway, this is definitely the Marvel world, and most likely the Marvel movie world, with characters from the X-Men series and an Umbrella company thrown in. Anyway, I have read a lot of Marvel works in my ES life, and I remember the general plot, so it doesn't matter if there are differences in details. We at S.H.I.E.L.D. have done a lot for you. We have provided you with legal status, provided covert protection for those close to you, and wiped out the tail of your superhero shows. Now I just want you to talk about yourself. In this situation, you want me to beg you. Fury complained dissatisfied. No, this is not as simple as talking about my situation. This is information, priceless information. You have to exchange it for something. Xia Yi shook his head. As for what you said, I believe it's worth it in exchange for my qi cultivation method. It is a method that can give ordinary people extraordinary powers. Do you know the seriousness of the matter? The purpose of S.H.I.E.L.D. is to deal with all special events that may threaten the Earth, even face possible alien invasions, and deal with all unknown events. S.H.I.E.L.D. is this: the walls of the world are now corroded by a group of guys calling themselves Hydra, and the world will be threatened. Fury shouted excitedly to Xia Yi. Xia Yi sneered at Fury's words. This is the trouble you caused yourself. Who made you covet Hydra technology? Even if you are so great, you can't force me to make selfless sacrifices. Use a Chinese word to describe you. What you do is holy bitch. Fury finally understood that this guy didn't want him to beg him, but wanted benefits. Tell me earlier. No matter how powerful you are just an independent person and not an organization. How many good things can you eat? Tell me, what do you want? Fury asked calmly. I want a Quinjet and the corresponding crew. By the way, it's best to build an apron in my villa. Can the Quinjet take off and land vertically? Xia Yi raised a finger and said. Impossible. Fury frowned. The Quinjet is equipped with many powerful weapons and can easily cause great damage in urban areas. Even if I want to, the World Security Council will find trouble for me. I don't want weapons. Xia Yi curled her lips. I just think it looks handsome, so use it as a private jet. 35XS. Private jet. The vein in Fury's forehead popped again. The crystallization of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s technological power and its proud main fighter jet is actually used as a private jet. Okay, apart from feeling a little disgusting, the price is not too hard to accept. I can make the final decision and approve a Quinjet transport plane to be stationed here permanently. The crew will be directly responsible to you. As long as it does not carry weapons, you can modify it in any way you like. Fury nodded and agreed to Xia Yi's request. Bingo. Xia Yi snapped her fingers. It would have been better if it had been like this. I'm still easy to talk to. Now can you tell me who are the Hydra members in S.H.I.E.L.D.? Fury's face was cold. Actually, I doubt what you said. You have always hinted that you know the intelligence of the Hydra members in S.H.I.E.L.D., but all you see are images. How do you know their names? I just know. Xia Yi didn't bother to make up an excuse. It was a seller's market anyway. Do you still want to hear it? You say it. Fury was suppressing his anger again. He had always believed that the most annoying person in the world must be Tony Stark. But now it seems that there is another one who is evenly matched. Alexander Pierce, G. Wait. Xia Yi just said the first name when she was interrupted by Fury. What's wrong? Xia Yi made a confused expression. Do you know what the name Alexander Pierce means? Fury asked, staring at Xia Yi. Of course he knew, he just wanted to see the shocked look on the black bald head who seemed to have only one expression in front of him, so he put this name first. I know. He is your former director, current Secretary General of S.H.I.E.L.D. and liaison to the Security Council. What's wrong? Xiaoyi still pretended not to know anything. God. I really doubt what shit you saw. Fury couldn't help but smile bitterly. The first name you told me turned out to be a guy who was least likely to be a member of Hydra. That's why you can't find these guys. Xiaoyi shrugged. Then what did he do in the future? Did he steal a Quinjet like you? Fury teased. It's much more serious than that. Xiaoyi shook his head. He used something called the Insight Project to kill all those who might be a threat to Hydra, including Tony Stark. Fury became serious when he heard this. Did he succeed? I didn't see it. Xiaoyi shook his head. He can't say that guy will be killed by you personally in the future, right? I will investigate. Who else? I don't think I will be surprised no matter who it is. Fury's face was full of helplessness. The future described by Xiaoyi made him sweat. If it was true, it would be a disaster if Pierce succeeded. True or not, it never hurts to investigate first. Grant Ward, John Gartler. Xiaoyi reported a few more names. This list is certainly not exhaustive, as it is impossible to remember so many characters in one TV series, but I believe it is already quite a few for One-Eyed Man Fury. This is really unbelievable. Fury frowned tightly. Do you want to kill all the people I trust? Where is Coulson? Isn't Coulson from Hydra? What? Coulson is from Hydra. Xiaoyi was shocked. I'm being sarcastic. Ironic. The veins on Fury's forehead popped out again. I will go back and check the list you provided. Now let's talk about another thing. I was shocked. In the future I saw, Coulson was obviously loyal. Xiaoyi patted his chest and breathed a sigh of relief. Tell me, is there anything else? Coulson is loyal. Fury's heart moved, and he silently kept these words in his mind, and Coulson's impression rating increased by 1 level. You should have heard Coulson mention the Avengers plan, right? We plan to set up an independent team composed of people with extraordinary powers to fight against enemies that may appear on the Earth in the future. Fury said seriously.